Hello guys, welcome to the channel. Today we are talking about what if Naruto was reborn in HighSchool DXD Part 6 Finale. Kaguya as a last dich effort sends Naruto to another dimension, in which Naruto learns about his origin and finds something new. Love if you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe, it will help us make more videos for you. Let's begin. Kyoto. Lance sat on the edge of the bed, shaking in a cold sweat with his eyes wide and a hand on his forehead. What the fuck was that? He thought as the woman in the bed slumbered. What the fuck is wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you, Lance. Albion muttered from within Lance, not wanting to awaken the slumbering female. There is something wrong, Albion. Lance replied as he stood up in an instant. Last night was supposed to be great, but it didn't feel good. It felt like I was doing something horribly wrong. Albion face palmed. Lance, Albion said in a deadpan, serious tone. Nothing is wrong. The reason you are feeling this sense of betrayal is because you are gay. You slept with a woman when you like men. Albion expected a response, but didn't get one. Lance. You're scaring me. Albion said in concern as he felt Lance's emotions start to ripple madly, and very dangerously. No. Lance rejected in horror as he took a knee. His divine dividing wings appeared on his back as he cupped his face. No. Lance, calm down. Albion shouted before several wisps of condensed blue magic spewed from Lance's body. Who is about to awaken, a strange mangle of voices stated as Lance's magic swelled violently as his scale mail armor took shape. Naruto's room. Zest turned, placing her hand against the soft, yet hard pillow she was sleeping on. A soothing rhythmic sound echoed in her ears. Burp. Zest was jostled to consciousness, groggily opening her eyes. Where? Zest mumbled as she turned to her left, seeing Loco, then to her right to see Hilda, both snuggling into her. Looking past Hilda, Zest snapped awake completely when she realized the three of them were sleeping while using Naruto's body as a pillow. Under Naruto's right arm was Offai's, who was sleeping with her arms around his head, pulling him into her chest as they slept. Zest's heart pounded excitedly, but then in nervousness when Naruto's left hand swatted the air as he grumbled in his sleep before it fell, landing next to her head, grazing her ear. Zest gasped as an intense spark of excitement exploded in her loins. Biting her lip to not moan, Zest held it back as she sat up. Zest gasped as she felt an influx of power spiral within Kyoto's barrier. Lord Naruto, a servant shouted as they banged on Naruto's door. A dragon has appeared in the South District. Shit. Naruto said as he turned, not noticing that Offai's was still clinging to him, as he opened his Rhine sharing and despite his splitting headache. I guess I'll stop it. Actually, Lady Yasaka has already departed to deal with it herself with Lady Akasha and Captain Harem. The servant replied in a rush, though a bit calmer as Naruto quirked an eyebrow. Well, I guess we should go back to sleep. Naruto groggily replied as he lay back down, getting a nod from an equally hungover Hilda. But, Sensei, aren't you going to watch to make sure Yasaka doesn't, I don't know, get hurt? Zest asked as she looked between the two adults who got back under the blankets. Yasaka can handle it. Naruto yawned as he instantly fell back asleep. Come on, Zest. Loco said as Hilda crawled next to Naruto, snoozing in a few seconds. Let's let the drunks and Offai's sleep. Oh. Zest said with a shaky smile and a very worried look in her eyes. Okay. I guess. The servant, Loco, and Zest walked to the kitchen, which had steam wafting from it as the cooks were making breakfast. South District. You sure it was good to not wake Naruto for this? Harem asked as she, Akasha, and Yasaka jumped from building to building, heading toward a large pillar of smoke where they felt the dragonic magic. Yeah, Papa is one of the kinds of drunks who needs as much sleep to recover. Yasaka replied as she smiled, feeling a rush of adrenaline in anticipation for a fight. Akasha laughed as she landed on a building, catching Harem's attention. Besides, Naruto would probably tell us to handle it ourselves. Akasha giggled as they made one last jump and arrived at the location. Oh, thank the gods, Lady Yasaka, Lady Akasha, and Captain Harem are here, many citizens shouted in relief. They could feel and see tendrils of magic emitting from the dragon. It was small, 2 stories in height for comparison. It looked like it was made of white, black, and gold armor, with a dozen blue gems on its joints, chest, and back, with large blue magic wings that looked like bones on its back. It gave a shrill screech, deafening many with it, causing Yasaka to wince as her ears rang. That looks like it could be divine dividing. Harem mentioned as she drew same Hada from her back, which gargled in excitement as it destroyed a small home. Well, even if it is Lance, Akasha said as she prepared to fight, lunging forward with a fierce determination in her eyes. We can't go easy. Harem followed after her. Let's go, same Hada. Harem shouted as same Hada fused itself into her body. The remains of her upper clothing were gone, replaced with extensions covering her nipples with spalders on her shoulders, which bear a resemblance to shark fins, and 2 ribbon-like protrusions on her back. Her Shiakusho pants stayed without any altercations. A thin, spine-like structure forms on her stomach, spanning from her waist to the underside of her breasts. She had the remains of her Shiakusho pants, now looking like shorts, around her waist with a pair of knee-length boots and elbow-length gloves. Same Hada had changed form. It took the form of a broad pata, which resembles an elongated shark tooth, featuring an unusual hilt with a handguard which completely covers her hand. The sword possesses gill markings along either side of the blade. Harem lost her 3 braids, causing her hair to become messy, and gains 2 blue lightning bolt markings on both sides of her face. Akasha pulled her arm back as Lance took notice of her and Harem closing the distance between them. I'll take close quarters, cover me. Akasha shouted, getting a nod from Harem, who started to gather chakra into her blade, changing it into water. Lance roared, condensing magic into his mouth. Narrowing her eyes, Akasha slashed her arm at the moment Lance fired his magic. Jijintio you. Akasha stated as the attack was cut in half with her sword. Lance didn't back down, backhanding Akasha, causing her to cough up black blood, through 12 buildings. Bloody needle, the blood that had escaped Akasha's body shouted in high-pitched tones, spinning around Lance before shooting out like spears. Lance howled in pain as he was impaled in several areas, but sadly the magic within the black blood was drained, causing him to nearly collapse, and was forced to when he WA blasted in the face with water. Divide. Albion shouted as he absorbed Harem's chakra as he was rocketed backwards. Not enough it seems. Harem said as she condensed a larger amount of water around her blade before firing it as a blast which resembles a shark tooth. Lance was struck multiple times, each time he divided it while he demolished more buildings. Akasha pushed rubble off of herself, her body not broken thankfully due to her hardening her blood when she was struck. Harem, watch out. Akasha shouted as she noticed Lance was powering up. You bastard. Harem shouted as Lance flew toward her at a fast speed despite his size. Akasha. Harem shouted as Lance broke through her last shot, smashing his gigantic fist into her face, plunging her into the ground through a building, creating a crater. Akasha appeared behind Lance, her arms posed to strike with several black blood droplets around her. Jijintio you, black sting. Akasha muttered as she swung her arms, cutting off Lance's wings, impaling him simultaneously. Harem shot from the crater, cutting the distance, striking Lance in the stomach with her entire strength. Same Hada. She shouted, causing the tooth to sprout fins. With a violent twist, Harem hooked into Lance's armor, causing it to shriek. Altering her position, Harem caused a vein to bulge as she shredded a majority of Lance's magic as she tossed him over her shoulder. Akasha jumped from the ground, spider web cracks in her wake as she spun around and kicked Lance in the spine, paralyzing him. Off in the distance, cloaked in an orange chakra cloak with black markings with cross pupils was Yasaka, holding her jutsu in her hand as it spun, glowing like a small planet with its rings. Wind style, Yasaka said as she arched her arm back. Raisin ring. Yasaka threw her jutsu as hard as she could, zipping through the air fast enough to break the sound barrier as it struck Lance. With a motion of her hands, Yasaka enlarged the raisin ring, its rings cutting deep into Lance's body before it exploded, cutting off the air, leaking a vacuum within the affected area. Lance's blood imploded out of his body as the vacuum tore the armor off of his body, the armor dissipating before Lance hit the ground, his limbs full of puncture holes with his stomach having a deep cut in it, causing him to bleed like a stuck pig. Quickly, Yasaka shouted as she powered down. Get him immediate medical attention. He is a human, so he can die of blood loss earlier. Powering down, Harem arrived at Lance's side. Same Hada's handle moved and latched onto Lance's hand. Pumping chakra into him, Lance gasped loudly as he started to breath, his injuries starting to heal from Same Hada forming a connection to him. Once healed, Lance's back hit the ground again, butt naked in public. So, Akasha said as she took off her jacket and put it over Lance to allow him to keep some dignity. I think we are all thinking this, but what the fuck caused this? I think we will tell us when he wakes up. Yasaka said as she picked Lance up. He just went berserk, and I can feel that his life energy has been dangerously depleted. Then we need to have someone replenish it. Harem said as she wrapped Samehada in bandages. Lunch. Lance did what? Naruto shouted as he slammed his hands on the table, standing up in surprise. Afiza's hand slapped his cheek, staying on it to grab said cheek. You're loud, Ashira. Afiza said in annoyance. Quiet down. Naruto pushed her hand off as he looked at Yasaka. Are you hurt? He asked in concern, looking her over before looking over Akasha and Harem. No, Papa. Yasaka giggled as Naruto goofily made sure. We are fine, honest. Okay, but what about Lance? Hilda asked as she stepped forward. He just went berserk and attacked. I know we haven't taught him that yet. Albion said there was a dangerous side called the Juggernaut Drive that can activate when the user is in intense emotional shock. Well, Akasha said as she cupped her cheek in thought. I can't say for sure, but Lance seemed to be doing fine last night. I think he may have had a bad first time. Harem said as she continued to eat, earning confused looks from Naruto. He went home with a woman yesterday, so they might have had sex. Naruto gave a sigh of relief. But that can't be it. Loco said as she looked toward the room where Lance was currently resting. He doesn't seem to be the kind of person to get emotional over a disappointment. Can we just eat lunch? Afiza asked as she closed her eyes, still tired. Ugh, fine. Naruto replied as he bopped Afiza's head. Next day. I have done all I could. A nurse said as she looked at Lance. I was able to replenish all I could. If he needs any more, I recommend asking someone else. No problem. I can do that with ease. Dr. Rekha said tiredly as she scribbled some stuff down before sighing. She looked at Lance, his bandaged body hooked up to a few tubes to help him breathe as he slept. What a troublemaker. She shrugged. A snort echoed in Lance's breathing tube, making her look up, seeing him coughing as his eyes fluttering open. He gasped as his eyes looked all over unfocused. Hour later. Lance felt uncomfortable as Naruto and Yasaka sat beside his bed. Come on, Naruto urged. We can't help you if we don't know what is going on, Lance. Closing his eyes, Lance shook his head, his emotions spiraling in a torrent as he did. I can't tell him. Lance thought as his heart weighed heavily as he continued to shake his head. Master wouldn't care about me if he found out. Oh, for fuck's sake, Lance. Albion shouted angrily as the back of Lance's right hand glowed a deep blue. Lance was emotional because he found out the hard way that he was gay, so he now thinks that you will get rid of him because of that fact. There was a very uncomfortable silence between the three of them. It's over. Lance thought, his body tense with his eyes white circles as his body blanched with his soul exiting his body. Yasaka raised her hand. Lance, you are a good kid, but fuck you are stupid. Yasaka huffed as she stood up, hands on her hips. You may have forgotten, but I am gay too. Lance blinked, before it dawned on him and he face-palmed. Yasaka rolled her eyes and looked at Naruto. I guess I'll leave this to you, Papa. Yasaka said with a shrug as she left. Naruto and Lance waited in silence, both wanting to say something, but didn't want to speak first. So, ugh. Lance and Naruto spoke in unison. No, wait, you first. Naruto and Lance chuckled before Naruto cleared his throat. You were actually afraid I would not want you around, Lance? Naruto asked in a comforting tone, laced with confusion. But, why though? Lance bit his lip as he felt his eyes tear up. My father, he abandoned Mom and me when my sacred gear awakened, calling Mom a whore to a dragon. He said, remembering the cruel things his father shouted as his mother carried him from their home, stones being tossed at them as soldiers were gathering arms. Then Mom died, cursing me for taking her away from her comfy life as a duke's wife. Flashback. Damn you. His mother shouted as she coughed, darkened blood splashing against her arm as she coughed. If it wasn't for you, throws glass at Lance, who dodges I wow not be here, dying in a pigsty. Mom, I am sorry, but it wasn't. Lance was silenced with a slap to the face, tears forming as his cheek stung. Shut up, you monster. She shouted as she continued to cough. Flashback end. I didn't. Lance cried out, his arm over his eyes as tears rolled down his cheeks. I couldn't. I didn't want to be abandoned again. He made all sorts of crying sounds as Naruto listened attentively. I don't want to be betrayed. Lance wailed. Naruto's hand pressed itself against Lance's head, causing Lance to open his eyes, looking at Naruto. Naruto had an understanding smile as he patted the young man's head. Lance. Lance stayed quiet. I know what you mean by being betrayed. Naruto stated as he remembered seeing Sasuke standing atop the statue of Madara's head at the Valley of the End, turning to face him with the curse mark covering a part of his face. I have been betrayed too, and it feels like the world is collapsing, shrinking around you to the point you can't trust others. Lance didn't say anything. I know it will take time, but I believe we can move forward together. Naruto said before he paused. Lance felt tense at this silence. You do realize that the damage caused by your rampage can't be overlooked. Naruto stated with a tone that showed disappointment, which cut deeper than anything that could have hurt Lance. You are going to be punished when your injuries heal up. I understand, Master. Lance said with respect. Naruto nodded. I accept any and all responsibility for my actions. Lance said as he gripped the blanket. I don't want to use that kind of power, so I will find a way around it, I swear, Master. Naruto smiled proudly of Lance. However, Lance admitted as he looked at his hand with a distant look. It will take a while, accepting myself for who I actually am. There is no rush, Lance. Naruto said as he smiled. I'll be there for you when you need me. Thank you, Master. Lance thanked Naruto. That night, Off-Eyes stood alone on the roof, staring up at the moon, her dull eyes followed by an equally dull expression. She stared at it, ignoring all around her as a few insects flew in front of her face. I thought I would find you here. Naruto said as he landed next to her. Is something wrong? Off-Eyes asked Naruto in a very dull and muted tone. Naruto quirked an eyebrow, looking down to see blood splatter on the tiles, rolling down the slanted roof as he looked at it. Well, I just wanted to know if you wanted a drink. Naruto offered, holding up a jug of sake. Turning to him, Off-Eyes let a small smile slip onto her face. Sure, I could use one, Ashira. She replied as she sat in midair, accepting the cup Naruto offered her. After filling up his own, Naruto sat on the top of the roof and clinked his glass against Off-Eyes'. Both of them drank. 15 minutes later, Naruto was slumped backwards with Off-Eyes slouched between his legs, an empty jug in her fingers as it hung limply. God, the world's spinning. Naruto thought in a haze as he looked up toward the stars. Ashira. Off-Eyes stated as she straightened her body while stretching, still in his lap. Yeah. Fuck, I forgot what I wanted to say. Off-Eyes said as she lazily blinked. Mustn't have been that important if you forgot. Naruto replied as he fixated on the moon. I gotta wonder. Wonder what? Off-Eyes asked as she turned her attention to the moon. Something wrong. Just wondering about my friends. Naruto said as he thought about Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, and all the others who are important to him in the elemental nations. Bow. His head nodded as he zoned out, snapping back into place. Off-Eyes giggled before outright laughing to the lulling drunk that she was resting on. Are you sure he can work? A foreman asked Naruto as said man was hammering a few nails into a board. Naruto glanced over at Lance, whose arms were swollen purple, struggled to pull a cart as he held a pained expression on his face, sweat profusely pouring from his face. I told him he didn't need to do this until he healed, but he is stubborn and refused to heal until after he helped fix what he destroyed. Naruto grunted as he returned to hammering. Well, couldn't you just make a new set of buildings? The foreman asked the former leader of Kyoto as Lance collapsed. I could. Naruto replied as he glanced over as Zest helped Lance get back up. But they would not learn how to take responsibility of I just fixed everything. The foreman sighed and shook his head. You are a strange one, my lord. He said as he walked away to help Lance. Naruto rolled his eyes as he finished the structure he was working on, jumping down to the ground to start the next. Lunchtime. Loco called out as she wheeled out a large cart of food for the construction workers. Come get it while it's hot, and there is plenty for everyone. Lance chose to sit down, gasping for air as the others lined up for food. God. He thought in pain as he looked at his hands, which were not moving as much as he wanted to flex his fingers. Fuck, come on, move. Still his fingers didn't move. At this rate, I won't be able to carry a hammer. Lance thought tiredly as he leaned against the wood beams he sat on. Here. Lance glanced up and saw Zest holding out a bowl of food for him. Thanks. Lance said as he took the food, wincing as the bowl felt incredible hot and heavy. You know, Zest said as she put a shrimp in her mouth, chewing it absent-mindedly. Why don't you use magic to move your hands and arms instead of your muscles? It would be a good way to practice control and possibly expand your magic. Sounds easy, but how? Lance replied as he did as she said, but it could not move his fingers. See, it's not easy. There has to be a trick. Zest shrugged, but internally smiled as she watched him ponder how to do it. Okay, let me think. Lance thought as he closed his eyes, tilting his head back to the sky. What was the first thing about magic control that sensei taught me? Delving into his memories, Lance thought hard. From the physical bodybuilding, to the manual labor and exercises, to the fishing. Wait, fishing. Lance thought as his eyes opened. That could work. Holding out a finger, Lance scrunched his face in concentration, which made Zest lean forward. Sweat built up on Lance's finger and slowly, a thread-sized amount of his magic sprouted 2 centimeters before vanishing. I did it. Lance announced with a smile. All I have to do is make more and longer ones and I could potentially move broken limbs. Sounds good, but without a medium, it will take a long time. Zest replied as she was jealous of Lance's innate ability to learn faster than she could. I already have an idea. Lance said cheekily as he looked at her. Thank you, Zest. Can you help me stand really quick? Sure, but you owe me your dessert tonight. She said seriously. Lance chuckled. Okay. He replied as Zest helped him stand wobbling over to the cart of food. Lance walked behind Naruto. Master, Lance called out, getting Naruto's attention as he was talking with the foreman. I have a request. Naruto, intrigued by Lance's apparent enthusiasm, turned and put his hand on his hip. I'm listening. Naruto said in earnest interest. Several minutes later. Naruto said in thought as he pondered Lance's request. Sounds good, right master? Lance asked as he sat down, his legs barely able to handle his weight at the moment. Yeah, it sounds incredible. Naruto replied honestly. But I think you're going to have to earn this by finishing the repairs. And once you're done healing, of course. Lance's smile got bigger as he heard that and shot right up. Of course, master. He shouted loudly. Lance wobbled off to finish his work for the day, leaving Naruto to sigh. Sensei, Zest said as she approached Naruto. Can I also ask you a favor? Naruto nodded, causing Zest's cheeks to tint slightly pink as she fidgeted nervously. Tonight, can we bath together, alone? Naruto quirked a curious eyebrow. Sure, I don't mind. Naruto said, causing Zest to smile brightly with her blush getting a deeper pink. Zest skipped away, wanting the day to end quicker than usual to get to the nighttime bath. I wonder why she wants to bath with me alone, but I guess I'll inform Luko and Hilda. Naruto thought as he walked toward Luko. Luko, tonight, Zest wants to bath alone with me, can you inform Hilda of that? Naruto told Luko, who was surprised. My, how bold of our little rabbit. Luko giggled with her hand before her mouth. Say what? Naruto asked stupidly. Oh, nothing. Luko giggled as she waved it off. I will let Hilda know. But you owe us some three-way action soon. Naruto felt his heart race with the red in his face at the words three-way. Sure. Without clones. Luko whispered as she got close, her eyes opening slightly to show off her pupils with a sensual lick of her lips with her serpentine tongue. Naruto started to feel hot under the collar. But that will be for a later time. Luko said, returning to her normal self with her eyes closed. I'll go find Hilda, talk later, Naru. Oh, God, I thought I was going to jump her right here and now. Naruto thought as he stood still for several minutes, wanting his boner to go down. Evening. So, you sure that this is a safe spot? Naruto asked Yasaka as they looked over a map of Japan and its islands. Yes, as of now, it is without settlements, so it is the perfect spot, Papa. Yasaka replied as she looked over some documents. Okay, just know that it will be a big event, so be prepared for some outroar and panic by the citizens. Naruto replied as he marked the map before rolling it up. Oh, please, Papa, I can deal with panicked citizens. Yasaka replied sarcastically, earning a flick to her ear. Ow. Smart ass. Jerk. Spoiled brat. Old man. Bimbo. Himbo. Naruto and Yasaka slammed their heads together, their golden chakra cloaks enveloping their bodies as they glared at each other, growling as they refused to back down with their chakra spiking. El Lord. Naruto. Naruto and Yasaka powered down as they faced a servant. Yes. The bath, it's prepared. Oh, okay. Naruto said as he bowed. He turned to Yasaka. Thank you for the help, sweetheart. Anytime, Yasaka said with a smile, before it became a cheeky smirk. You old fart. 8 chakra arms grabbed Yasaka and hoisted her into the air. Seems my daughter is getting too big for her britches. Naruto said calmly as a 9th, making Yasaka sweat nervously. Wait, Papa, hold on. She started to beg. Please, I didn't mean it. Spanking. Naruto started as if he was giving the death penalty. The 9th hand brought itself down upon Yasaka's kimono-clad bottom. 10 minutes later, changing room. Ashura, wash my back. Afaiz asked as she entered the bath with Naruto. He had arrived 20 minutes before Zest, and had decided to bathe with Afaiz before Zest. Sure, why not? Naruto mumbled. Lazy dragon. Afaiz smiled at the affectionate nickname as she sat down before Naruto, who sat behind her, sponge in hand as he started to scrub her back as Afaiz herself started to wash her hair. Afaiz tensed, eyes widening enough for soak to enter and sting her eyes as Naruto grazed her shoulder. She screamed, reaching for water, and failing. In her rush to get water, Afaiz partially transformed her arm into multiple arms to grab a bucket. Geez, calm down. Naruto shouted as he grabbed Afaiz's thrashing form and poured water on her face. Fuck, Afaiz, are you okay? Yeah, why? Afaiz asked as the soap suds were gone, soap out of her eyes. Because all I did was. Naruto tapped her shoulder, only for Afaiz to tense and collapse, holding her shoulder, shuddering in pain. Yeah, you're not fine. What is going on? TH isn't the first time you've been hurt, Afaiz, and we are worried about you. It's. Afaiz whimpered as she got up, not looking at Naruto. Nothing. Okay, it's nothing. No, it isn't nothing, Afaiz. Naruto shouted as he grabbed her arms and made her look at him, shocked at his actions. Something is hurting you, and I am not going to stand by like a dumbass as you keep getting hurt. Now, tell me what is going on. Afaiz's lip trembled as her silver eyes welled with tears. Her worry became a scowl as she glared at him, breaking out of his hold as her clothing reformed around her. I told you, boy, she snarled as she looked up at him in the eyes. Is. Nothing. Afaiz vanished, leaving Naruto alone. Fine, be that way, you stupid dragon. Naruto shouted to no one, swearing one way or another, Afaiz would hear his words. I won't be there to patch your ass up if you come back broken and bleeding. Taking deep breaths, Naruto sat down and started to clean himself. The door opened and Zest entered, a towel around her waist. Sensei, want me to? Oh, you're finished? Zest said sadly, a pout on her lips as Naruto was standing up. Take your time, Zest, I'll be out in the hot spring. Naruto said as he exited the room. Moving quickly, Zest washed her hair, body, and wrapped her long hair in a towel before leaving in record time. Wow, that was fast. Naruto said as he sat in the spring, reaching over with a chakra arm to grab a bottle of sake and 2 cups. You sure you cleaned yourself well? Of course, sensei. Zest screamed, red in the face as she got in, undoing the towel around her body, revealing herself to Naruto as he poured 2 cups of sake. Here. Naruto said as he handed one to her. Zest accepted. Cheers. Naruto said before he drank. Zest followed suit, lifting her cup and drinking it. Ah. Naruto sighed in content as he put his cup to the side. Nothing beats warm water, sake, and the chill under the moonlight. Yeah. Zest said as she swayed ever so slightly. Can I have another? Naruto nodded as he poured Zest another. I need more courage before asking him. Zest thought as she quickly drank her second cup. Her cheeks were flushed as she leaned back, putting her cup aside. She sighed as she closed her eyes and submerged up to her mouth, breathing through her nose as she enjoyed the water. So nice. Yeah, it really is. Naruto replied in earnest. Sensei. Yeah. Can you massage my ears? Huh. Zest waded over to Naruto, pushing herself into his lap, facing away from him. I want you to massage my ears, Sensei. Zest stated assertively, making herself comfortable in Naruto's lap. What could go wrong? Naruto thought as he drank another cup of sake before reaching up, his middle fingers grazing the pointed part of her ears. Zest gasped, her thighs clenching as she felt hot sparks of arousal shoot through her body. You okay, Zest? Duh. Zest replied, nodding her head. Keep going. Naruto gently caressed Zest's ears with love and care, massaging her lobes in his fingers and rubbing the back of them. Zest mewed, moaned, and bit her lip to keep them in as her eyes glossed over as her horniness blew up, leaking into the hot spring. Feeling the sake coursing in his veins, Naruto blushed at Zest's butt pressing into his crotch, feeling the softness of her thighs against his was making his breath labored as he felt his arousal. Sensei. Zest trembled out as she turned to look at Naruto. Upon making eye contact, Zest didn't hesitate to fully turn, grab his head, and pull him into a headed kiss, their tongues invading each other's mouths as Naruto's arms wrap around her back, her hands tightening their grip as she felt his touch on her back. She arched her back as she moaned, pressing her breasts into Naruto's chest as her moist vagina tightened, causing her to stifle a moan as she climaxed. Ha, 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 ha. Zest gasped heavily, pressing herself into Naruto, feeling his aroused dick against her lower lips in the spring water. Sensei, yes, Zest. Naruto replied as he was trying to stay in control. Mac. Make me a woman. Zest asked hazily with blurry vision. She added emphasis as she gyrated her hips, rubbing her pussy against his dick, sending pleasurable sensations up both of their spines. What could go wrong? Naruto thought as he slid his hands down Zest's back, his fingers leaving pleasurable streaks down her back and waist as Naruto gripped it firmly under the water. Zest's excitement multiplied several times over as Naruto lifted her up, the tip of his dick at the entrance of her vagina. With the force of gravity pulling her down, Zest impaled herself on Naruto's dick, eyes widening and tongue lolled out of her mouth as she was spread for the first time. She moaned loudly as Naruto massaged her ass as she continued to sheath him into her body. Zest, it feels amazing. Naruto lulled out as he could feel every twitch and spasm of her warm insides against his dick. Sensei Zest moaned as she leaned into his shoulder, their pelvises connecting. It feels so good. Naruto pressed his head against Zest's, latching onto her ear, nipping it. Hey ah. Zest screamed, tensing as she climaxed a second time. Her ears are definitely her sensual spot. Naruto noted as he placed his hands back at her hips and lifted her up. Placing her feet at Naruto's hips, Zest wrapped her arms around Naruto's neck, propping herself up as she thrust down. Meanwhile, you think Zest is going to go for it? Hilda asked Loco as they looked at the stars, sharpening her sword as they did. I hope she does. Loco replied as her feet swayed back and forth as they hung off the balcony. We have seen the look in her eyes, she is most likely going to go for it tonight. Hilda halted in her tracks, looking down sadly. You think it is a good idea to add another woman to our relationship with Naruto? Hilda asked Loco. Loco tilted her head back and forth, pushing her finger against her lip in thought. I don't see any real problem, but I do see where you are coming from. Loco replied as she opened her eyes. It is another person you have to worry about, give yourself to, and hope they give themselves to you. But if there is love, then I don't mind. Hilda grumbled a bit. You don't like the thought of Zest joining us. She is a good girl, but I think it's a bit early for her. Hilda responded as she sheathed her sword back into her parasol. But didn't you get pregnant in your 20s? Loco asked. Hilda sputtered. Zest is over 120, so I think she is perfectly fine. Loco said before wiping a bit of drool from her lips. Thinking about Naruto fucking such a young woman makes me feel a bit hot. Hilda quirked an eyebrow, taking a cautious step away from Loco. Hot spring. Zest bounced like a bunny on Naruto's dick as Naruto sucked on her breasts. So, good. Zest moaned as she pulled Naruto deeper into her breast. Water splashed up and out of the hot spring from their throes of passion, and from hot hard Zest slammed herself onto Naruto. Zest. Naruto groaned as he released her breast. Zest kissed Naruto, their tongues lathering each other as Naruto put his arms under Zest's legs and stood up, thrusting upward into Zest, whose legs wrapped around Naruto's waist. The echoes of flesh slapping against flesh reverberated loudly as Zest clung to Naruto as he fucked her standing up. Her aroused nipples grazed Naruto's chest as she went up and down on him. Getting close. Naruto thought as he pulled away from Zest's lips, saliva dripping down their chins. Why'd you stop? Zest asked in a panic when Naruto suddenly stopped. Naruto pulled out of Zest. Hey. Zest screamed as she wanted to orgasm a third time. Put it back. Patience is a virtue, my dear apprentice. Naruto whispered huskily into her ear before sticking his tongue in her ear. Zest tensed again, a mini orgasm rippling through her body before Naruto put her down on her back. Naruto loomed over Zest as he re-entered her pussy, sliding in with ease. Zest reached out and pulled Naruto to her lips and kissed him. Naruto felt his spine start to get a familiar tingle as he neared his climax. Zest. I'm close. He gasped. Inside. Zest said as her body started to violently heat up. Naruto thrusted several more times before he slammed his hips into hers, triggering Zest's climax as he came inside of her. Zest twitched as she lay there, her body coated in water and sweat, gasping for precious oxygen from her first time. Naruto pulled out, his dick coated in a mix of cum and a small amount of blood, and caressed Zest's cheek. Was I good? Zest asked as she stared tiredly at the night sky, eyes lolling over to Naruto. You were amazing. Naruto chuckled as he helped Zest sit up, kissing her forehead as he picked her up. With the movements of his walking and the sound of his heartbeat, Zest fell asleep with a pleased smile. Naruto's eyes lazily opened as he felt his arms and one of his legs being weighed down. Carefully sitting up, Naruto saw Loco, Hilda, and Zest clinging to his limbs. Okay, I guess this is going to be normal from now on. Naruto grumbled as he made a shadow clone, quickly substituting himself with it so he could go to the bathroom. After relieving his bladder, Naruto walked to the kitchen, seeing Yasaka drinking tea. Yasaka. Papa. You look like shit. Both father and daughter said in unison. Indeed, both of them had sweat-soaked bedhead hair, bags under their eyes, and were coated in sweat. Akasha and Harem were too frisky last night. Yasaka answered before drinking her tea, which helped soothe her aching muscles. Zest is now a part of my harem, I guess. Naruto admitted as he poured himself some tea. It's not easy. Yasaka grumbled. I know. Naruto agreed. They want your attention. And get angry when they think you are spending more time with the others. Then they get angry and stop talking to punish you, wanting you to figure out what is wrong. Then they blow up on you when you stupidly figure it out. Having a harem is hard. Father and daughter admitted, high-fiving each other as they laughed. But all seriousness, Yasaka said as she drank more tea. Are you sure about dating Zest? She is quite young, just over 120. I had the same thought, but then again, Tamamo and I were very young when we had you. Naruto pointed out before finishing his cup. I do believe that you are never truly prepared for anything in romantic relationships. You can be ready to respond, but your partner's reactions aren't something we can control. True. Yasaka said as she poured Naruto more tea. The door to the room opened to reveal Lance, whose arms were lightly bandaged from Loco healing his arms slightly from the new damage he caused them the day before. Master, I want to go fishing. Lance asked his mentor. Sure. Meanwhile, Offeyes and Great Red gasped in exhaustion. Are you ready to give up, Shrimp? Great Red demanded as he started to heal. No, not until. Offeyes started to speak before her body spasmed, curling into the fetal position as blood poured from her mouth, ears, nose, and eyes. My clone should be back soon. Stupid loli. Great Red growled as his wounds healed to not be life-threatening, flexing his arms as he prepared to fight as a portal opened to reveal Offeyes' clone. Said clone merged with Offeyes, her wounds healing and her power restored to a certain degree. I won't stop, until you die or leave. Offeyes stated as she sternly glared at Great Red. And you are a dumbass who won't leave. Very well, Infinite Dragon. Great Red stated as the two of them clashed again. Naruto and Lance. Oh, you got a big one this time. Naruto chuckled as Lance struggled to get his fish out of the water. Luckily, his fishing line was channeling his magic, keeping it from snapping. Come on. Lance shouted as his arms ached in pain, since they were still injured. Planting his feet, and a final tug, Lance pulled out the fish, revealing it to be a swordfish as Lance hit the ground with his back. Whoa! Naruto shouted in shock as he caught the fish, which struggled in his chakra arm's hands. We are having Mikajiki for lunch, Lance. Lance, gasping on the ground, smiled largely as he saw Naruto's proud smile and heard the tone of his voice. Thank you, Master. Lance replied tiredly. I'm going to get another. Nah, that's enough for now, Lance. Naruto said as he threw the swordfish in the cart they brought to carry the fish they caught. Your arms are still injured, so let's call it quits. Okay. Anyway, tomorrow is the last day of work for construction, right? Naruto asked Lance as he helped the White Dragon Emperor stand up. Yes, it is. Lance said in confusion. Naruto smiled as his Rinne opened, clapped his hands. A sphere of light appeared in his closed hands. Hold out your hands. Master. Lance asked in surprise. Is this? Yep, you have earned your request. Now, actually, how are you going to add this? Naruto asked as he had no idea how they were going to add this to Divine Dividing. Lance must focus on adding the weapon to the gear. Albion said as a blue glowing orb appeared on Lance's right hand. Sacred gears react to the emotions and desires of their users, so adding this is easy as long as Lance desires it. Lance summoned his balance breaker as he held out his hand, Naruto handing the sphere of light to Lance. The light pulsated as Naruto let it go, merging into Lance's armor, causing the light to brighten to the point of blinding both Naruto and Lance. Few hours later, Lance devoured his Mikajiki and the rest of his lunch before bolting from the room, leaving Yasaka, Akasha, Naruto, Loco, Hilda, and Zest in confusion. Lance seems really happy. Yasaka pointed out as she chewed her Mikajiki. You'd think he was going on a date. Oh, you think he has a boyfriend? Akasha smacked Yasaka outside the head. Don't be stupid, Yasaka. Akasha irritated stated. Lance just realized his sexuality, so how could he have a boyfriend so fast? It could be a prostitute. Akasha smacked Yasaka again, causing the adults to laugh as Zest finished lunch and left, following Lance's trail. She found Lance outside in the training grounds, taking a breather from running. What has you so happy? Zest asked as Lance turned to see her. Master gave me my new weapon, so I wanted to start my training, but once here, I was tired, guess my injuries are still bad. Lance admitted, which earned him a pat on the back from Zest. At least you realize you need to rest, instead of just jumping in without looking. Zest said proudly, before becoming sly. Which means I am going to become stronger than you while you rest, bitch. Lance frowned. Says the one who had to pounce Master to get laid. Lance snipped. Zest laughed, slapping Lance's back again, much harder. True, but at least I didn't destroy a chunk of Kyoto after my first time. Lance was red in embarrassment. Fine, get to your training, I'll watch and make a new move as I do. Lance declared. Challenge accepted, however you have to get it started before sunset. Zest stated as she looked at the sun means you have roughly 6 hours before the sun sets. Loser does a small request for the winner, deal. Zest and Lance shook hands. Zest moved several feet away from Lance, pulling out a balloon. Alright, I am going to get the raise on today. Zest stated as she put her hands around the balloon, spinning her chakra within the balloon. Lance watched carefully as Zest spun and attempted to add power to her chakra, blowing the balloon into ribbons. Fine, this time for sure. Zest stated as she put her hands together again, this time without a balloon, which allowed Lance to see her chakra in her hands. Spinning, power, compression. He thought as he felt her chakra spin, enhance in power, and the attempt at compression. Okay, I guess I'll take these and create my own. Meanwhile, Naruto held his 8 swords with Hilda also holding 8 swords as Jayaki continued their training. Loco, meanwhile, was going through her techniques, working on her body's natural flexibility. Which Naruto was feverishly watching, causing him to slip up and get smacked by Jayaki. Naruto, pay attention. Jayaki scolded his partner, making Hilda snicker. I am. Oh, yeah, then why were you looking at Loco's voluptuous tits? Jayaki asked as he grabbed Naruto's hair and pulled his face close. I know her tits are nice, but they are a distraction. Do I need to remove this distraction? And no. Naruto mumbled. Okay, then. Jayaki released Naruto's hair and pushed him back. Now, pay attention, and do it correctly. Naruto grumbled as he and Hilda continued their acrobat sword style training. Loco exited her stance, taking a deep breath. That is good for today, she thought as she turned to see her lover's training. I might as well go check on the others. Lady Loco. Loco turned and saw a messenger running toward them with a letter in hand. A letter just arrived for you, Lady Loco, he said as he bowed, handing Loco said letter. Loco's eyes cracked open with a serious look on her face. So, it is that time, she thought as she recognized the crest. Opening the letter, Loco read it quickly. Thank you, you may leave, Loco told the messenger, who bowed and turned tail to return to his job. Sighing, Loco put the letter in her pocket before she rubbed her temples. This is going to be a headache, she thought as she got herself mentally prepared. Naruto. Naruto stopped his training when he heard his name. Can we take a walk? Loco asked with her sweet smile that could melt the hearts of men. Sure, I could use a break. Naruto spat the blade in his mouth into his hand. Well, I'll continue my training, Hilda said as Jayaki nodded. See you when we return, Naruto said as he left with Loco. Loco took Naruto's hand into hers, smiling as she leaned into his shoulder while they walked. So, why did you want to walk? Naruto asked Loco. Was it to save my ass from Jayaki's abuse? I mean, training. Loco giggled as they walked into the woods, weaving through the trees with ease. No, but it is something of importance, Loco said as she pulled the letter out of her pocket and held it out to Naruto. The Dragon Kings are having their annual meeting, and as the 6th Dragon King, I'm supposed to go. Oh, so when do we leave? Naruto asks. I have to go alone, Loco said as she shook her head. The meeting location is secret to all but us Dragon Kings, so I can't tell or bring you with me. Oh. I see, Naruto said sadly as he pressed into Loco. It will be less hectic without you, Loco. I know, I will miss you all too, Loco whispered as she lifted her head up and kissed Naruto softly, barely grazing their lips together. Which is why. Loco turned Naruto to face her, grabbed his kimono, and tore it open. I am going to have my share of sex before I leave tomorrow, Loco said with a cheeky smirk. Naruto smiled before he grabbed Loco's breasts through her clothing, locking lips with her, viciously shoving his tongue into her mouth as his thumbs pressed against her nipples. Loco moaned into his mouth, her hand grabbing his head to pull him deeper into her mouth as her other hand grabbed Naruto's dick. Training ground. God, I was close, Zest shouted as she was blown back from her latest attempt to perfect her raise-non. Zest hit the ground with her fist, heating up the area as she subconsciously tapped into her lava-style chakra, her hand being coated in the chakra. Why did Sensei make this jutsu so hard? I think you are getting closer, but don't rush it, Lance told her as she got up, shaking the molten rock off her hand. What about you? Zest huffed as she sat up, looking at her sibling student. Lance held up a finger, the tip of which started to glow with magic. Just need to run a test, Lance said as he looked up, looking around before his eyes landed on a peach. Holding out his arm, Lance gave his best constipated face in concentration before the small sphere of magic popped off his finger, zinging through the air, blowing a small hole in the now ruined fruit. Holy fuck, it worked, Lance said in shock as Zest's jaw dropped, burrowing into the ground. Holy fuck, that is cool, Zest shouted as she got in close. Do it again. Taking aim once again, and some time to concentrate, Lance hit the ruined peach a second time, this time destroying the rest of the fruit. That is cool, Zest shouted childishly with her eyes big in wonder. What are you going to call it? Lance paused, cupping his cheek. Well, I mimicked the steps you were doing, but on a lesser scale. I am a dragon emperor, so maybe something with dragon in it, Lance pondered. Oh, I know, how about spiral dragon bullet? Zest offered. Lance thought about it. Yeah, spiral dragon bullet, sounds cool, he said with a smirk. Guess I win out, little wager. What? Zest gasped in shock. No, you didn't. That thing is no bigger than a walnut, so how is that a winner? Well, are you backing out? Lance taunted with a goofy smile. No. Then you have to humor a request. Wait, I helped you name your stupid attack, Zest stated hotly. So I already helped you. I didn't ask for help, so it doesn't count, Lance replied, knowing he won. Unable to come up with an excuse, Zest sighed in defeat. Fine, what is your request? Can you help me eat? My arms hurt, Lance said in pain as his eyes started to water. Zest blinked before her cheeks slightly bulged in laughter, keeping it in. Okay, you big baby. Well, I am the younger sibling here. Lance stated. They paused at his statement. So you see me as an older sister? I didn't say that. Meanwhile, Loco leaned against a tree, heaving heavily as she moaned loudly, spooking birds from their nests as Naruto's tongue delved into her vagina's moist cavern. Yes. Yes. Loco screamed as she climaxed, eyes wide as her sexual fluid sprayed into Naruto's mouth and hitting his face. Amazing. Yes, you are. Naruto gasped out hungrily as he pulled himself up and kissed Loco. Their tongues did a fierce dance of dominance, Loco not giving up despite her legs feeling weak, barely standing if it wasn't for the tree she was leaning against. I am going to fuck you hard enough to imprint your body into the ground. Naruto stated as he pulled back from Loco. Yeah, fuck me hard, you fox. Loco playfully replied as Naruto spun her around, pulling her against his body. She could feel his aroused penis grazing her butt cheeks, making her body yearn for his touch more. Naruto reached around and grabbed her breasts, the flesh going through the gaps in his fingers as he played with them. Enough foreplay, fuck me. Loco demanded as she broke from his grasp and got on her hands and knees. Make this ground imprint my body. Naruto growled predatorily as he grabbed Loco's ass, massaging it with his hands before spreading her cheeks to see her soaked pussy. Come on, Loco whined as she shook her ass enticingly. Fuck me, fine, my greedy dragon. Naruto replied seductively before he thrust into Loco. Her warm embrace gripped his penis tightly, constricting around him as he pumped into her, making her body move to the rhythm of his thrusting, breasts swaying. You feel amazing, Loco. Naruto lulled out as he was enjoying her body. So, this is where you two have been. Naruto tensed in fright, prematurely climaxing inside of Loco as they looked up and saw Hilda there, a disapproving look as she had her arms crossed while tapping her foot. Damn it, Hilda. Loco shouted in anger, not getting up from her position as she felt Naruto soften inside of her. You made Naruto come early. Well, then I guess I better make it up to you. Hilda sighed, shrugging her shoulders. She walked over to the two, removed her kimono, revealing her nude form to the world, and sat on Loco's back, facing Naruto. Hilda pulled Naruto into her mouth, her tongue in his mouth. Naruto enjoyed Hilda's aggressiveness, his dick hardening within Loco. Oh, that's what I am talking about. Loco moaned as she felt him expand within her pussy. Now, continue to fuck me, Naruto. Naruto slammed his hips against Loco's ass as he sucked on Hilda's tongue. Pulling from Hilda's mouth, Naruto moved his head to her breasts, latching onto her nipple as he loved his right hand to her inner thigh, feeling her quiver against his fingers. As he thrust into Loco, Naruto's fingers found Hilda's clit, hard and lubed from Hilda's fluids. Hilda's arms wrapped around Naruto's head, pulling him into her breasts as he finger blasted her vagina. Her visible eye lolled while she felt her knees weaken, thighs clenching as Naruto inserted a finger into her lubricated canal as his thumb pressed against her clit. Enaruya. Hilda slurred as she felt her climax near. Keep thrusting. Loco lulled as her arms collapsed, making a triangle, pushing her breasts and face into the ground. Naruto bit Hilda's breast, making Hilda clench, her face scrunching silently as she climaxed over his hand as his left hand slapped Loco's ass, shifting his knees up to push Loco's lower half upward. Loco's eyes crossed as she felt Naruto buck her upward, pushing her to climax as he came inside of her a second time. All three panted as they were coated in sweat, Naruto pulling out of Loco and falling on his back with Hilda on top of him. Hilda, horny and thirsty, sank her fangs into Naruto's neck, drinking his blood to quench her thirst and boost her arousal as she had a fetish for biting. Typical for vampires really. Naruto ran his hand through her hair as she pulled back, smiling at him as she positioned herself above his dick. Now, it's my turn. Hilda murmured as she grabbed his dick, rubbing it several times to get it erect before she positioned it at her entrance. Ladies first. Naruto said as he looked up her body, staring into her eye. Hilda lowered herself, biting her lip as he filled her drenched pussy. Hey, don't forget about me. Loco said as she pushed herself from the ground, crawling across the ground as her legs were too weak to stand. Hilda started to bounce on Naruto's dick, moaning as she grabbed her breasts, pinching her nipples hard enough to make her toes curl. Loco came from behind Hilda and sat on her knees, pulling Hilda's head toward her and started to kiss her passionately. Cup my pussy and finger me like your life depends on it, Hilda. Loco whispered huskily into Hilda's ear after separating their lips. Make me feel good. Hilda's right hand removed itself from her breast to find, locate, and bury itself into Loco's crotch. Loco lurched forward, leaning into Hilda's neck with her free hand grasping Hilda's breast. God, you two are so fucking sexy. Naruto grunted hotly as he watched them play with each other. Thanks. Hilda gasped. Close. Same. Naruto replied as he sat up, pulling Loco into a kiss before he sucked on her nipple as he spanked Hilda's ass cheek. Hilda slammed onto Naruto's pelvis as her toes curled to the point of cramping as she tightened hard enough to make Naruto orgasm within her as she came on him. That was hot. Loco claimed as she helped Hilda get off of Naruto. But we have one more thing left to do. Naruto, once again on his back, tiredly looked down to see Hilda and Loco sensually lathering his dick with their tongues, cleaning it of the combination of the mixture of their cum. Okay. I think that is enough for today. Naruto gasped out tiredly, causing Hilda and Loco to giggle before they crawled up and snuggled with Naruto, the trio taking a nap before going home. Evening, dinner. The Uzumaki family sat around a large feast. Many traditional dishes of Japan, with several of Loco's home traditional dishes of the Aztecs. This feast is to say a temporary farewell to Loco, Naruto said as he held his cup in a toast to Loco. May we all give her encouragement for a safe journey. Here. Akasha, Yasaka, Haribel, Hilda, Lance, and Zest said as they raised their glasses and drank. As everyone reached for their food, a portal appeared above the table. Something dark and shadowing fell through the portal before it closed, said item smashing into the table, ruining said table and the food on it. The thing writhed in pain before it slowly took the shape of a familiar woman, covered in blood, several large gashes on her body, with her eyes closed from unconsciousness. What the fuck? Afaiz. Naruto shouted as he recognized the infinite dragon Loli. Dr. Rekka walked out of Afaiz's designated room. Is Afaiz okay, Dr. Rekka? Naruto asked as he shot up from his spot. The infinite is going to be fine. Rekka sighed as she looked at Naruto. But she has, honestly, I don't know how long, but she has been fighting something for ungodly amount of time. The extent of her wounds is much worse than they appeared. I sealed up one injury just for it to not stop bleeding. How she is alive, I don't know, but last I checked, S is fine. Naruto sighed in relief. Thanks Dr. Naruto thanked as he moved past Rekka, entering the room to see Afaiz bandaged up to the point she looked like she was a cocooned butterfly. Naruto knelt, putting a hand on the exposed face of the infinite dragon Loli, feeling her skin under his fingers. Afaiz, Naruto sighed as he grazed her cheek. I promise I'll make whoever did this pay. Next morning. Naruto, I'm leaving. Loco said as she had everything she needed for her travels to the meeting of the Dragon Kings. Stay safe, Loco. Naruto replied in a dull tone. Frowning, Loco kissed Naruto's cheek before she left him and Afaiz. Hilda, Zest. Loco said as she found her two harem sisters down the hall. Please, watch over him. We will. Zest stated quickly. Giving them a quick hug, Loco exited the compound before covering herself in perception blocking magic before transforming into her dragon form, taking flight. Few hours later. Loco's feet touched the ground as she transformed back into her human form. Before her was a stone table with 8 old wooden chairs around it. In 3 of the 8 chairs was Tiamat, Yulong, and a mini clone of Hormungandr in their human forms. Tiamat, the Chaos Karma Dragon, had the appearance of a beautiful woman with straight and long beautiful pale blue hair, dark blue eyes, and a cold atmosphere that radiates from her beauty. She possessed an extremely powerful dragon aura within her body. She also wore a navy blue skirt, and her entire body was doused with the color of deep blue. Yulong, the mischievous dragon, was 10 feet tall, his lime green scale-covered skin shined with his yellow-green aura lighting it. He didn't wear any clothing. Hormungandr, the world serpent, clone, looked like a scaly child with a torn cloak covering its body. His hair looked like clumps of seaweed as he was slightly wet. Am I late? Loco asked with a chuckle and smile. No, you are just in time, Loco. Tiamat answered as Loco sat in her chair. 5 days later. It was quiet in the land of Japan. It was as if the entire ground the humans and supernatural walked was just dead to the world around them. The sensation of something being off hung in the air like a fart in an overcrowded bathroom. Naruto had just sat in Afaiz's room. patiently waiting for her to wake back up. He hadn't showered, shaved, or moved from his spot, making the room smell as his facial hair started to consume his face. He ate what was given to him, but he barely mumbled audibly when he spoke. "Papa, please, Afai's won't vanish if you leave," Yasaka urged her father as she sat on the opposite side of Afai's. Naruto sighed, reaching up to scratch his head. "You're right," he admitted as he stood up, wobbling a small amount before he balanced himself. "I guess I am just being overly worried, I get it," Yasaka said as she and Naruto left Afai's to her rest. "Because I am constantly worrying about this city, its people, our people." Naruto chuckled as he put his arm around Yasaka, pulling her close. "I guess you took after Tamamo in that regard," Naruto said as he smiled, remembering his wife as he looked at Yasaka. "You think Mama would be proud?" "Don't be stupid, of course she would," Naruto interrupted Yasaka, flicking her in the ear for her stupidity. Pouting, Yasaka punched Naruto in the ribs. "Stupid papa," she muttered as she pulled out of Naruto's grasp and storming off. Naruto laughed in pain as he walked outside and sat into Mamo's garden. "Kurama," Naruto thought as he sat down in a meditated position. "I need your knowledge." Naruto entered the 9th layer of the tailed beast psyche, where Kurama resided alone. "Naruto," Kurama muttered. "I know what you want to know, and I can help you." He lifted his fist to Naruto, who pressed his fist into Kurama's. Meanwhile, Lance and Zest sat on a fence, looking toward the sky as the clouds covered the blue sky, making it a matte gray with various shades of white and dark gray. "I think it is going to rain," Zest mumbled as she reached out, waving her hand to feel the moisture in the air. "You can tell by doing that?" Lance asked as he looked at her. Zest felt unsure as she lowered her hand. "No, but I just wanted to fill the silence, you know," Zest replied as her face became downtrodden. "I know, Master hasn't been himself since Loco left, and Hilda has been keeping herself busy at the school," Lance mumbled as he returned his gaze up toward the sky. A single drop of water struck his nose. Guess you were right, Zest," he announced, drawing Zest's attention. "It is going to rain." Meanwhile, Hilda walked through the rain, having finished her business at the school. "Kyoto," she thought as she walked through, rain beating against her umbrella violently as the rain started to pour down heavily. A town with such beauty, but right now it seemed like nature is crying in fear. Fear of what? I don't know. Hilda saw people run through the rain while water-based yokai strolled through the rain as if it was nothing. Smiling, Hilda walked briskly, not wanting to get sick, if a vampire could get sick. "Lady Hilda." Hilda turned her head to see Harem, carrying same Hada on her back, walking through the rain as it got heavier. "Harem, you're soaking wet," Hilda pointed out. "So are your feet," Harem sarcastically replied. "Not my point, we need to hurry back." "Why are you out here?" Hilda asked curiously, since Harem rarely, if ever, left the compound without Yasaka as she was her bodyguard on top of being head of security. "I needed to go shopping for some stuff, and it is my day off," Harem stated with a bashful blush as she held up several packages of goods she had indeed bought. "Oh, let me help with that," Hilda said as she took some of them. The two made idle conversation as they walked back home. Meanwhile, Akasha sat in Western restaurant Nikoya, waiting for the food she ordered. "Are you okay?" Aletta asked the vampire as she cleaned a nearby table. "You seem distracted." Akasha leaned into the table, hand on her face. "An important family member showed up a few days ago," Akasha explained to the demon. "And she was heavily injured," Aletta gasped. "So, we have been worried about her. I pray that she will have a speedy recovery," Aletta stated as she felt extreme sadness at what Akasha was going through. "Excuse me, ma'am," Kuro spoke as she arrived with large bags of food. "But your order is ready." "Thank you, Kuro," Akasha thanked as she bowed, taking the bags with her. "We'll see you on the next day of Saturn." "Thank you for your patronage," the master said as he waved Akasha off. Skip, 2 days later. Afai's felt rummy. She felt heavy. Muscles ached. Bones rattled. Scales flaked. She could barely move as she sluggishly opened her blurred vision eyes, closing them several times to slowly let her eyes adjust as a sunbeam was right in her face due to the door that led to the yard being open enough to let in fresh air. "Afais, you're awake." Afais winced at the sudden shouting, glancing over at who was talking to see Naruto. You. It. She mumbled as her throat extremely dry. Naruto did look like shit. He had a thick stubble and he clearly hadn't showered from the thick stink wafting from him. Well, hello pot, name is Kettle, have we met? Naruto sarcastically replied as he carefully helped her drink water before Off-Eyes used magic to destroy her bandages, leaving herself naked before Naruto. Whoa, what are you doing? What does it look like, Ashira? Off-Eyes asked as she materialized clothes to cover herself, not out of shame, but because she didn't want a random person seeing her true glory. I am leaving. An orange chakra hand grabbed Off-Eyes, engulfing her body, and Off-Eyes made a squeak sound when it gripped her. What? Naruto asked, as he was the one who grabbed her. Naruto squeezed Off-Eyes again. Squeak, oh god, that is hilarious. Naruto said in childish glee. Squeak 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 squeak, enough. Shouted Off-Eyes, breaking out of Naruto's chakra hand before she collapsed, writhing in pain and shaking as she blew through the small amount of power she had left, barely an ember's worth left in her body. Sorry. Naruto apologized. But you need to rest, Off-Eyes. You are still very injured. I am. Off-Eyes tried to say convincingly. Fine. Off-Eyes dropped like a bag of onions. 10 minutes later. Off-Eyes drank some soup broth. She wore a sleeping kimono and was laying in a futon. Will you tell me who did this, Off-Eyes? Naruto asked as he helped her eat. Off-Eyes remained silent. Sighing, Naruto gave her some water. Off-Eyes drank it, not fighting the care she was being given. Ashira. She choked out. Off-Eyes' hair moved out of her face to show she was a tearing mess. Snot bubbled from her nose as she gripped the blanket tightly, tearing through it with ease. It was. She sniffled. Great Red, the Apocalypse Dragon. Naruto tilted his head in confusion. Who is Great Red? He stupidly asked. The reason why I wasn't able to look after you. Off-Eyes shouted, tears spraying out of her eyes as she started to morph shape, her emotions fluctuating, causing her body to lose its human shape. If that bastard did not invade my home, the dimensional gap, I would have been the one to raise you, not those foxes. Naruto reached out and carefully pulled Off-Eyes' shifting form into a hug. She cried into him, letting out her anguish, her fears laid bare. Few hours later. Naruto stepped out of the bathroom, clean-shaven and clean of body. He moved swiftly through the compound into his room, getting dressed. Now this is familiar. Naruto thought as he put on a pair of black pants instead of a kimono. I forgot how great it feels to wear normal pants after several hundred years here. He threw on a pair of black shoe/sandals before grabbing a chainmail shirt. He then put on long-sleeve button orange shirt. After that, he grabbed a deep red cloak that had black flames on the bottom, with the words, Rakudo Senin, and Konohagaku relief on each short sleeve. I wish I could wear a headband. Naruto thought as he looked at the leaf symbol. He couldn't, or else he couldn't use his Rain Sharingan. Okay, I think I am prepared. How about all of you? Naruto asked the tailed beasts. Yes. Do you? Let's do this. Let's kick dragon ass. We'll boil him like lobster. Yeah. Let's skewer him. We will wreck his shit. Let's destroy the bastard. Naruto smiled as he opened his Rain Sharingan, a portal opening, revealing the dimensional gap. Stepping in, Naruto closed the portal. It's different from what I imagined. Naruto mumbled as he floated in the colorful abyss. So, this is the gap between dimensions? You guys think we could go back to elemental nations from here? Probably, Kurama answered. But do you really want to go back? Naruto didn't answer as he floated through the void, trying to search for Great Red, which he assumed was a giant red dragon due to the name. I can't see it with my Byakugan, Naruto thought as he used the 360-degree vision in tandem with the farsight ability of his dojutsu, which was a decent 150 meters. Maybe if use Sage mode I could. Why don't we power up, act like a beacon to draw the bastard's attention? Shukaku suggested. That way no time and power are wasted looking for the bastard. Naruto blinked. Shukaku, you magnificently insane bastard. You are a genius. Naruto thought as he entered tailed beast mode, not six paths, Kurama's avatar enveloping his body and letting out a vicious roar that echoed throughout the realm between realms, all the while ignoring Shukaku's angry insults at being called stupid. Naruto disengaged the Kurama avatar, and waited in Sage Kurama mode. What could have been seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, or years, Naruto turned and saw a massive red European dragon. So, this is Great Red. Naruto thought as he and the tailed beasts mentally took measures and compared them to their current tailed beast state. He is probably smaller than Kurama, but Loco got him beat for sure. So how this guy is the strongest doesn't make sense. But size doesn't mean shit, it's the power and how he uses it that give the one the title of strongest. Kurama yelled at Naruto for his idiocy. So, you are the one who let out that horrible noise earlier. Great Red stated as he took notice of Naruto. I remember you. I saw you floating in here centuries ago. Yeah, Off was here protecting you. You did, then this makes this easier, we get to skip introductions. Naruto stated as he never broke eye contact with Great Red, all three of his eyes. I want you to leave. I will not leave. Great Red interrupted. I have no intention to leave, and that little cunt Off Eyes needs to learn to share. Naruto's eyes widened in anger at hearing this dragon call Off Eyes a cunt. I wanted to just talk, Naruto said as he bit his finger, smearing the blood on his palm. But it seems like all 10 of us will need to use force. Great Red was amused when Naruto made hand signs and summoned the beast puppets. The tailed beasts decided to take the forms of their previous Jinchuriki, with a few minor adjustments. Chapter 35. If you want descriptions, all of them had Rhine sharing and open on their foreheads. This feels so weird, Komei mentioned as he opened and closed his Rhine Sharingan. Anyone else feel weird? Focus. Naruto shouted as the beasts agreed it was strange to have a third eye. Tisk, summoning more allies isn't going to help. Great Red scoffed. His interest was piqued again when the new beings were enveloped in chakra, taking the shape of their true forms in chakra avatars. However, he noticed something very interesting about this. We have more than a chance. Naruto stated as all 9 of him activated their Susanoo and clad their respected tailed beast in its armor. We have skill and teamwork. At that, the armor opened up on the forehead of each of the beasts and revealed a Rhine Sharingan, all of them now sharing vision with each other. It's showtime. Wee Sun shouted as he was the first to attack. Great Red whipped his tail around, which Gaku evaded and he grabbed onto it. He inhaled. Lava style, lava body, he shouted as his giant form's heat intensified. Great Red winced. It be my turn. Saiken stated as he appeared beside Great Red, inhaling. Saiken expelled a dense, corrosive gas all over the dragon's body, with the gas evaporating before it touched Son Goku due to his lava body burning the gas at a distance. The gas faded and showed clear damage to Great Red's scales, now significantly weaker due to the corrosive nature of the gas. Boil release, unrivaled charge. Kokuo shouted as she slammed into Great Red's chest, impaling him with her Senjutsu and Susanoo enhanced horns. Blood spurted from Great Red, making him grunt in pain. Now! Naruto shouted, watching from a distance, as the tailed beasts charged tailed beast bombs. Great Red howled as 9 individual beast bombs struck his body, raising a cloud of smoke from each strike, covering him from view. Oh, fuck yeah. Shukaku cheered as the smoke started. We did it. Did you? Shukaku turned, only for his chakra avatar to be destroyed when a sleek, red hand grabbed his body, crushing it to splinters. Naruto and the remaining beasts watched on semi-horror as Great Red reappeared before them, Shukaku's puppet body floating away. How? Great Red chuckled as he pointed toward the smoke, which was nearly gone. Indeed, there was a dead body, but it's hollow. Kurama growled as he, Naruto, and the rest of the beasts, Shukaku included as he returned to Naruto, saw that what they had destroyed was indeed a hollow husk of Great Red, now falling apart into dust. I shed that skin after my last confrontation with the midget dragon, Great Red laughed. It had some magic left in it, so I decided to let it gauge your abilities for me. He shed his skin. Naruto thought in irritation. The tailed beasts were all infuriated that their attacks were all for nothing. Not if I can help it. Kurama shouted as he charged up a tailed beast bomb raisin shuriken. However, his eyes widened and he gasped when Great Red was in front of him. Shut up, idiot Kitsune. Great Red muttered before he slammed his fist into Kurama's armored jaw, sending him and Naruto into the depths of the void. How the hell? Madatabi roared as she and Isabu, who was in his curled up roller form, went to attack Great Red. He wasn't that fast earlier. Oh, you never noticed before? Great Red asked Naruto and the beasts as he stopped Isabuya with one hand, taking a mild burn from the turtle's spinning before he stopped completely. Because that shed skin husk wasn't even at full power, but I am. He kicked Isabuya up in the air, hitting Kome as he tried to sneak attack from the sky, popping the avatars and destroying the puppets, returning the beasts and their memories to the original Naruto and the beasts. Noticed what? Madatabi demanded as she got on Great Red's back and attempted to pin him down as Jayaki charged. Lariat, he shouted, only to hit Madatabi when Great Red flipped his back to Jayaki, allowing Madatabi to take the hit, popping her out of existence and then allowing his tail to slice into Jayaki's body, popping him as well. This left Kokuo, Seiken, and Son Goku left. You never noticed that by dividing yourself as such with such powerful beings being your core power as a collective meant that they were weakening you. Great Red stated as he looked at every one of the remaining beasts. What I mean is, you are stronger when you work together in the original. Shockingly, the tailed beasts smirked in Naruto. Oh, you didn't think we don't know our weaknesses? Naruto giggled evilly before he recalled the tailed beasts. Great Red was confused but got his answer when Kurama resurfaced from the void. He was no longer clad in Susanoo armor, but he was at full power. 6 arms. 3 heads. Ashura Kurama. Kurama stated as he moved his 6 hands to create his tailed beast Raisin Shuriken. Well, this is. Great Red started to say before his eyes narrowed. Something is wrong. Gotcha. Before he could turn, Great Red was impaled by 4 gigantic anchor head chains made of chakra that wrapped around his body before 2 large purple arms grabbed him in a full Nelson. What? Naruto chuckled as he stood, not in 6-path mode, in the forehead of his Susanoo. Thanks for teaching me how to use the adamantine sealing chains that Mom could use, Kurama. Naruto thanked his friend as he sealed away a good portion of Great Red's enormous power. You think you can hold me? Great Red shouted as he struggled to break free as Kurama charged up his attack. I can feel it, you gave most of your power to your comrade. You can't. You can't. What's wrong? Feeling drained? Naruto asked sarcastically as he siphoned magic from Great Red through contact with the Susanoo, using his Rain Sharingan's Preta Path ability. Well, I'm feeling great. Naruto turned his attention to Kurama. Go on, throw it. Naruto urged. But, you'll be caught. I don't care, throw it. Naruto shouted at Kurama. Gritting his teeth, Kurama arched his back. Tailed beast Raisin Shuriken, he shouted as he threw both shuriken. Die you bastards! Great Red shouted as he mustered up his remaining strength, pooling it in his mouth. He spewed it from his mouth in a breath attack seconds before the shuriken hit him, blowing up one, while the second hit him. All dimensions. Gale force winds tore through the sky as tears in the gap opened in all dimensions. Heaven, Earth, Underworld, Elemental Nations, Elseworld, Inverted World, Negative World, World of Thought, World of Imagination, etc. Every dimension witnessed a blinding light for what seemed like forever, but it was merely seconds before the tears sealed themselves shut. Sasuke, was that? I think, it was Naruto. Sasuke answered his wife, the two of them embracing as they sat on a bench, tears swelling in their eyes. He is alive. Sakura wept, her feeble hands clutching to Sasuke's. Sasuke weakly smiled as he looked at his elderly wife, and she in turn looked at her wrinkled husband. At least he is still the same hard-headed loser. Sasuke mumbled, getting a chuckle from Sakura. Underworld. It has been a month since the sage has gone missing. Blamuro shouted at his master. This is the opportune time to have me attack Kyoto to fight their leader. His long brown hair tied in a low ponytail, wearing an old Victorian vest with gold trim, his long-sleeve white shirt underneath with a black tie. He wore knee-high boots with his gray pants tucked into them. Blamuro's master scoffed as he wiped his forehead, his silver/gray hair smeared with grease from his forearm. If you want to massacre, go ahead, just don't expose me, the master told his pawn, who smirked. Because I don't need the attention, especially with my sister, brother-in-law and the rest of the Satans being frantic about the fight in the dimensional gap where the Sage and Great Red are fighting. Understood, Master Euclid. Blamuro said with a bow, smirking widely as he turned away to make his leave. Such a barbarian, but he was easily manipulated. Euclid Lucifuge thought as he returned to his work. 2 days later, Kyoto. Yasaka was resting. Laying across Haribel's lap as Akasha's head was on Yasaka's stomach, the trio sweating in the summer heat. God, why weren't you born with the ability to alter weather or something like Naruto? Harem groaned as she waved a fan, spreading coolish air across her sweaty body. Same had a nearby grumbling. Because fuck you. Yasaka weakly retorted. It's bad as is, don't get excited and make it worse. Akasha groaned as she loosened her yukata, having decided to wear something light over her Wallachian clothing, which would take time to put on and take off. The trio groaned in the heat, their sweat stink wafting throughout the small area as they looked into Damamo's garden. Yasaka's ears twitched violently before she shot up, looking toward the southeast. Someone is here. She shouted urgently. Border. Blamuro held a smile as he held one of the border guards by the throat, feeling the adrenaline rush. It's not enough. He grunted as he crushed the person's throat, lackadaisically tossing them aside as he started to enter the lane of torii gates that were the entrance to Kyoto. Not hiding his presence, Blamuro strolled through the gates, looking around. Such lovely architecture, I might ask Master to add some to my home after this. Blamuro mumbled enthusiastically. Blamuro, Drake grumbled from within his host, a green orb appearing on Blamuro's left hand. You should not be so cocky, the yokai have had exceptional training, especially the Empress of Kyoto, who is the daughter of the Sage of Creation and Destruction and was trained by him. You may be right, but that won't stop me from having fun with my battle. Blamuro replied to his only comrade as he stretched his arms and prepared to fight as he walked. You should turn back. Blamuro turned and saw Off-Eyes. She was heavily bandaged, and she had short hair currently, wearing a yukata and had a crutch. And what makes you say I should leave? I am on a mission. Blamuro boasted to Off-Eyes, not knowing who she was, but Drake did, and wisely stayed quiet. Off-Eyes chuckled as she turned. Go ahead if you want, but know the people here are not kind toward strangers. She said with a lazy yawn. What a weird child. Blamuro thought as he continued walking, taking notice that the torii gates were replaced with statues. Tanuki. Nikomata. Turtle. Monkey. Horse. Slug. Kabutomushi. Ox. Kitsune. Interesting statues. Blamuro said with interest as he looked at the kitsune statue, taking in the craftsmanship. Maybe I can take these. You won't take these sacred statues, a voice announced as the owner landed several feet behind Blamuro. Red Dragon Emperor. Standing straight up, Blamuro slowly turned and his smile became full of delight and childish glee. So, that little white dragon from 5 years ago. Blamuro cooed as he addressed his rival. Is now an adult, all grown up. Leave, Red Dragon. Lance demanded, ignoring the attempt at small talk. Blamuro frowned. Well, seems the only thing that has changed about you was the fact you have a stick up your ass. Blamuro grumbled. Last time we met, you eagerly took the chance to attack and talk. I was stupid back then, Lance told Blamuro, the two of them staring each other down, taking several steps in a half circle. But now I have a mentor who taught me hot-headedness is a fast way to die. Lance felt his stomach frothing in nerves, so intense his heartbeat pulsed in his bowels and balls as he stared the man who nearly killed him all those years ago stare back. Like the abyss, when you stare into it, it stares back. When death comes for you, Blamuro stated as his body started to glow red, with Lance following suit as his body started to glow white. You will only be able to smile back. The light broke from both men, revealing their scale mail balance breakers. Red armor with green gems and orange highlights on Blamuro. White armor with blue gems and black and yellow highlights on Lance, though his gauntlets had a slightly altered design, looking more like dragonic skulls. His armor's wings glowing with a soft blue. The sounds of leaves were the only sound either of them heard, their helmeted eyes never breaking their stare. A single leaf fell between them. Both men lunged, Blamuro's wings expanding from his back, closing the distance at a greater speed. Both slammed their arms against each other, sparks flying as they pressed against each other. You have gotten stronger since last, but I did too. Blamuro boasted as he shifted his angle, pushing Lance's feet into the ground, pushing him back, creating deep groove into the ground. Lance smirked within his helmet as he shifted his arm against Blamuro's, using his other hand to grab Blamuro's wrist, and then pivoted on his foot, using Blamuro's forward momentum to slam the armored adversary into the ground. The ground cratered under the force, Blamuro gasping in surprise and pain as he saw the sky. Lance pulled back his fist, filling it with magic before bringing it down toward Blommuro's chest. Promotion, Rook. Blommuro shouted as he predicted if Lance's attack connected, his armor could be heavily damaged. Lance's hand stung as the armor on his knuckle dented, folding over itself as he hit the red dragon's chest plate. Blommuro leg swiped Lance, making him fall. Night. Blommuro's movements seemed to blur as Lance hit the ground. One moment he was on the ground, looking to the sky, next he was on his feet, leg pulled back to kick Lance. Lance lifted his arm up, index finger pointed at Blommuro's head as magic gathered into a small sphere at the tip of Lance's finger. Spiral Dragon Bullet. Lance shouted as he fired his attack. The bullet of magic shot from his finger fast enough to eclipse Blommuro's speed, breaking through his scale mail, the left hip to the chest plate destroyed. Damn. Lance gasped as he used a fraction of his magic. For an unrefined attempt, that was strong enough to break the armor. Lance couldn't celebrate long as he got up, witnessing Blommuro stagger as he used magic to restore his balance breaker. You have gotten good enough to break my armor. Blommuro stated as he flourished his left arm, gripping his hand as he showed the back of it to Lance. So, I will go another step into my reserves. Boost. Blommuro's power, physical ability, and agility doubled, closing the distance in an instant, slamming his arm into Lance's head. Divide. One half of Blommuro's magic was ripped from him and absorbed into Lance, which allowed him to breathe a bit easier now his magic was restored, but concerned. This power doesn't feel like it did before, he thought as he countered with a knee to Blommuro's stomach. It feels darker, eviler than before. It must be that power that increased his durability and then his speed. Albion told his host as he kept his host's armor from breaker by a counter kick to the side from Blommuro. Must mean someone tinkered with him and gave him a new way to power up without boosting. Blommuro laughed as he took another hit, this time to the head, cracking off one of the orange horns. Now this is fun, he replied as he caught Lance's leg, raising his arm. Keep entertaining me. Instead of breaking Lance's leg, like intended, Blommuro evaded a spin kick from Lance. What did you do? Lance demanded as he assumed a bastardized version of Naruto's frog kata, which he had learned from observing his mentor. You are powering up differently than normal. You noticed that? Blommuro chuckled as they gasped for air. Well, let's just say that when driven to madness, desperate men pray to the devil instead of God. Lance gasped. Devi GWAAAG. Lance gasped when Blommuro elbowed him in the jaw. Of course, Blommuro laughed as he grabbed Lance's head, smashing his forehead into Lance's, further cracking their helmets. We devils have abilities far unknown from all others. And it is all thanks to the evil peace system. He tossed Lance through several trees, speeding through the forest ground quickly before boosting twice over. Promotion, Bishop. Blommuro shouted as he charged his magic into his palm. He struck Lance in the spine. Red Dragon Pulse. Blommuro shouted, blasting a condensed magic sound wave into Lance's body. Lance spasmed as he fell, rotating enough to land on his face, stumbling to get up. Blommuro kicked Lance's head, violently jerking to the side, hearing an audible crack. Damn, your dividing is annoying. Blommuro stated as he had noticed his magic had indeed dropped from every moment of contact. Yeah, your magic is gross. Lance spat out as he got up. Like the Spiral Dragon Bullet. I am not used to using this, but it is my hidden ace. No. I should wait a bit longer, WA, until he tires himself out more. There he is. The intruder. Kill him. Blommuro and Lance turned their focus to the new arrivals. Yokai soldiers. Annoying pests. Blommuro grumbled as he gave them his attention. Lance watched as Blommuro slashed one of their throats, before shattering the skull of another with ease. Lance growled as he got on all fours. Clenching his fist, Lance's wings glowed as he took off from the ground, slamming into Blommuro, and grabbing him. Divide. Lance lifted Blommuro into the air, far away from the yokai. You think taking me in the air will frighten or kill me? Blommuro shouted as he hit Lance's back. No. Lance winced in pain. But to use it as an opportunity. Lance pushed into a thick cloud, with Blommuro appearing alone from the other side. Summoning his wings, Blommuro balanced himself. I am not really used to aerial combat, but it won't matter. He thought as he tried to find Lance. Lance appeared behind Blommuro, kneeing him in the spine as he grabbed Blommuro's wings. You bastard. Blommuro shouted as he tried to get out of Lance's grasp, but unable to. Now eat dirt, you motherfucker. Lance shouted back as he divided Blamuro's power, his wings glowing to disperse the excessive amount of magic safely out of Lance's system while he flew downward toward the earth, intending on killing Blamuro. Promotion, Queen. Blamuro shouted as he tried to spin to shake Lance, but he could not break Lance's grip. No. Lance released Blamuro last second before the man's head connected with a giant rock, his body crumpling to the ground as chunks of his armor and the gems cracked and splintered off as he cratered the ground a second time. Damn. Lance gasped in exhaustion from the constant decrease and increase of his magic. He was not as difficult as I. Blamuro got up, growling as his eyes glowed a brilliant green. I am 110% done, he shouted, his magic shooting from his body into several green orbs. I, who am about to awaken, am the heavenly dragon who has stolen the principles of domination from God, Blamuro shouted as his broken scale mail healed itself and started to bubble with magic, warping and expanding. I laugh at the infinite, and I grieve at the dream, I shall become the red dragon of domination. Fuck, this is what I did. Lance shouted as he realized what Blamuro was attempting, channeling magic into his finger. Spiral Dragon Bullet. And I shall sink you. Blamuro stated as he finished transforming, smoke and debris hanging in the air as he gave off a final dragonic roar as he took Lance's Dragon Bullet without resistance and without a scratch. To the depths of the Crimson Purgatory. Juggernaut Drive. Shit. Lance gasped as he stood before the dragon-sized attacker. The scale mail armor, which is normally humanoid, now looked like Drake before he had been turned into a sacred gear, but made of armor and green gems. I am going to turn this land into a wasteland. Blamuro shouted as he raised his arm and swiped at Lance. Lance jumped forward, rolling across the ground, being under Blamuro. I have to use it now. He thought as he raised his arm. What the fuck are you doing in Kyoto? Huh. Blamuro was sent flying through the air, spinning several times before he hit the ground, skidding dozens of feet, destroying nearly 100 trees as Zest landed on the ground a few feet from Lance. You. Zest shouted as she pointed toward Lance. Explain. Quick version. Rival, Red Dragon, wants to kill me? Lance said in the demanded quick explanation. Okay, good for me. Zest said as she cracked her knuckles. This bastard will be killed by us. PSH. Lance scoffed, sarcastically rolling his eyes to his rabbit sibling student. I didn't need your help. Well, from where? But thank you. Lance interrupted with a chuckle. Zest blinked. Usually, this would be where they would bicker, but she smirked and looked back toward the recovering Blamuro. Well, I accept your thanks and a sundae from Nicoya this weekend. Lance laughed. Fine. He said as he took off. I have a plan, so follow on it. Zest said as she knew what he needed. Buy him time. Following Lance, Zest stopped 20 meters away from the recovered Blamuro, channeling chakra as she made the tiger seal. Fire style, fire dragon caterwaul. Zest stated as she expelled several small dragon head-shaped flame bullets from her mouth. Blamuro was exhausted. His body felt like it was on fire, especially the parts that were struck by Zest's attack, which drew his attention. He could feel his heartbeat speeding up to a dangerous degree as he roared at her. His sanity and life force draining with every second, feeling what could be described as white-hot metal skewers slowly impaling his brain as he charged his magic into the Sente gem on his chest, which opened up to reveal said gem. Longinus Smasher. Drake shouted as Blamuro blasted a green magic laser from his chest plate. Zest substituted herself with a log, her right arm being singed from the speed of the attack grazing her as she made her escape. Fuck, this hurt. She thought in pain as the skin peeled off painfully, exposing her nerves to the air. The attack ended, we Zest. Lance shouted in concern, drawing Blamuro's attention. You idiot. Zest shouted as she substituted herself with Lance, bracing herself with as best she could as she tanked Blamuro's swipe. Zest gasped in pain as her left arm had a gash deep enough to gush blood. No. Lance shouted, growling as he felt a dark sensation crawl up his spine. A familiar sensation he hasn't felt in a long while. A feeling, no, a thought crossed his mind as he prepared his strategy. Use his Juggernaut Drive. Zest rolled on the ground, evading the sloppy attacks of Blamuro. Pain. She thought as she rolled over her injuries. She gasped as she forced herself to her feet, jumping high into the air, making the hand signs of snake, rightward arrow ram, rightward arrow dog, rightward arrow rat, rightward arrow snake, rightward arrow tiger. Earth style, stone fist jutsu. Zest shouted as she made rocks form on her right arm. Rearing her arm back, Zest smashed it into Blamuro's head, sending him off balance. I'm ready. Lance shouted toward Zest. Her stone fist broken, Zest jumped away from Blamuro as he staggered. Do it. Blamuro roared as he raised his fist to kill the distracted and injured Zest. He thrust his arm forward, only to feel heavy amounts of resistance and pull back. Thread divide. What? Blamuro shouted in disbelief as he saw two very thin strings of magic and two hooks sunk into his arm, dividing his magic and sending it to Lance, who again had to release the excess amounts through his wings. That. How can you hold me back? Lance couldn't help but be cocky. This addition to my SG, Thread Divide, was created by the Great Sage, so of course it is strong. He replied as he manipulated the hooks to sink further into Blamuro's arm. And I could also pick out your heart and organs. And fuck up your arteries. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Blamuro's eyes widened in realization. It was checkmate. Or was it? Survival instincts kicked in, and the thoughts of hundreds of different users of the boosted gear bore into Blamuro's mind. Instead of pulling against Lance, Blamuro spread his giant wings and flew past Lance, breaking his footing. I win. Blamuro thought as he struck Lance into the ground with his tail via a spin. Lance's armor fragmented upon impact, his mind hazy, quickly trying to regain semblance of regular thought. You lose. Blamuro shouted as he dive-bombed toward Lance's barely conscious body. Zest watched, time seemingly slowing as she took off toward Lance. I won't make it, she thought in fear, visualizing Lance's dead body, feeling a sense of dread. I can't believe I made you my apprentice, the thought of teaching you Sage Mode and my techniques. She heard a voice that was Naruto's in her head. I am disappointed you could not save your sibling student. I don't have Sage Mode, nor do I know the completed Raise Non. Zest thought fearfully as her ears only heard her heart beat, blood splashing from her burns and cuts. What can I do? A great pressure made itself known. She could feel an old, ancient, and wise presence behind her, but she did not take time to look, her focus on saving Lance, where it should be. This presence was familiar, so she easily ignored it. But it didn't vanish, nor did it seem angry. However, it seemed to mold itself, move, and breathe the same way she did. Chakra exploded from Zest's injuries, corrosive and bubbling as it covered Zest, cloaking her and giving her a long tail. What felt like an instant, Zest grabbed Lance as time seemingly returned to normal. Lance. Wake, he stupidly shouted, making Zest breathe a sigh of relief. Good. You're safe. She said as she jumped away, her enhanced legs sending them above the trees with little effort, where it would normally take 1/20th of her chakra to make a jump that big. Line. Lance mumbled as his eyes foggily opened and closed as he produced a dividing thread. How much range? Zest asked, remembering Lance didn't have much training and the magic required to make it long could be costly. Lance didn't reply as he lulled in consciousness again. Such a useless idiot as usual. Zest grumbled. The last of our magic is in it, so you have roughly 200 feet worth of line. Albion told Zest as she took the thread. Thanks. Zest said as she started to descend toward Blamuro, who was viciously flying toward them. Dodge. Lance shouted as he pushed Zest to move, making her miss her chance to attack, but in the random movement, the hook of the dividing thread hooked into Blamuro's mouth, dividing and adding the magic to Lance. My head. He grumbled as his mind started to clear, thanks to Blamuro's magic soothing his brain. Finally, now help me, dumbass. Zest shouted as she released Lance, who took flight immediately. Wrap the bastard up in the wire and then we can kill the bastard. You got it. Lance shouted as he kept his thread loose as he moved around Blamuro, planning on staying in his blind spots. Where are you, you little bastards? Blamuro shouted as Zest grabbed onto his tail, her chakra cloak giving her extra power in her grasp. Right here you scaly motherfucker. She shouted angrily, sparking her chakra into an intense heated lava. Blamuro flailed in pain, flying haphazardly to get Zest to let go, all the while not seeing Lance wrap him in his thread, nor did he feel his magic drain. Okay, that's all I can do. Lance shouted as his armor glowed with magic, his wings expelling excess for the third time. Curse you motherfuckers. Blomuro screamed in exhaustion as he started to lose altitude faster, heading head first toward the ground outside of Kyoto, close to the beach. Lance braced himself as Zest let go, falling through the air dozens of feet before extending her chakra in the shape of an arm to grab onto a nearby cliff, slowing her descent. Unable to fly anymore, Blomuro crashed, chunks of his armor flying everywhere as he smashed and rolled around the ground, finally stopping with his tail in the water. "Is it over?" Zest asked as she arrived, still coated in lava chakra, breathing heavier due to inexperience. "I hope." Lance gasped before he collapsed to his knee, his thread dividing vanishing as he disengaged his helmet, vomit hitting the ground. "Damn, motion sickness. Gross, but I don't think it is over since." Zest grabbed Lance and substituted with a boulder as Blomuro's tail slammed into the area they were just standing. "Damn, what will kill this bastard?" Lance asked as he rematerialized his helmet. The two of them were in a nearby cove, covered by rocks keeping them from Blomuro's view. "Wait," Zest said as she looked from their hiding spot, keeping Lance from moving. "I have an idea." "What?" Meanwhile, Harem arrived on the scene with a legion of soldiers from Greece, Norse, and Christian pantheons, along with their own soldiers. "All right, our enemy is a sacred gear user of the boosted gear," Harem shouted as she hefted same Hada from her back, Blomuro reaching the forested area, having moved fro the beach. "Brace yourselves." "No, get back." Harem turned and saw Lance carrying Zest as they flew toward Blomuro. Blomuro, having heard Zest, roared, the sound waves causing deafness and bleeding from the ears for many weaker individuals. "Fucking die already, by my dragon flames." Blomuro shouted as he spewed flames from his mouth. Lance evaded. "We won't be able to charge while he attacks." Lance shouted in concern. We can't put any more distance between us, we have to do it here." Zest told him. "Fine, but if we die, I'm going to kill you." Lance snapped as he lowered himself to the ground. Not even questioning, nor thinking, what he just said, Zest's feet touched the ground and Lance stood beside her. "You decided hiding was useless? You chose to let me kill you? Fine by me." Blomuro shouted as he prepared his strongest attack, the long Inu's smasher. Zest held out her hands as Lance charged magic into his finger. Touching his hand, Zest closed her eyes and found the wavelength of Lance's magic, and attuned her chakra to it before transferring it into Lance's body, empowering his magic with chakra. Now, the hard part. Zest though in worry. She moved her hand to the small bullet of magic on Lance's finger. With her opposite hand, Zest added chakra to her hand and started to spin it, the core being Lance's spiral dragon bullet, enhanced with chakra. "Die, Longinus Smasher." Blomuro shot another blast from his chest, the green magic laser heading straight toward the duo. "We're too late," Lance shouted. Harem jumped forward, wielding Same Hada. "Sorry, Same Hada, I know you hate heat." She apologized to her weapon partner. With a strong swing, Same Hada cleaved through the entirety of Blomuro's beam, causing it to split and move in diverging paths. "Whatever you are planning, do it now," Harem screamed at Zest and Lance. "I won't be able to do that again." Her body, though not at risk, was injured and smoking from the intensely heated magic that had been used. "I'm trying," Zest cried out, on the verge of tears as she failed in making the complete raise non. But I can't. Make a clone." "What?" Zest asked Lance. "Make a clone. That way you can provide the chakra and the clone and mold it," Lance told her. "It should work, and if it isn't completed we can still try." Nodding, Zest made a shadow clone, standing before her. He charged once more, toward the two rivals and charging another fire blast. "Hold it," Lance said as he took aim at the approaching attacker. "Hold it." Zest was biting her lip as she and her clone tried forming the raise non. "Now!" Lance shouted the moment he saw the raise non become a true sphere. Combo, Spiral Dragon Cannon. With his aim true, Lance fired off the magic/chakra combined attack, being knocked off of his feet, his shoulder dislocated as he hit the ground. Blomuro was struck by the bullet in the chest, warping it to the point it burrowed through the armored skin, shattering it all as Blomuro was sent flying, the embers of the attic swirling against his chest. "It's over." Lance coughed as he collapsed, his armor vanishing as he did. Zest tried to catch him, but collapsed herself when her chakra cloak faded. "Damn. Harem said with pride as she moved to apprehend Blamuro, who hit the ground and was rolling across it, battering many trees before he abruptly stopped when he reached the barrier of Kyoto. When they aren't arguing, they make a strong team. Same Hada grumbled. Hey, I apologized for that. Harem snapped at her weapon. Same Hada grumbled more. Stupid glutton. Harem retorted as she smacked her weapon before getting up to do her job as the soldiers of yokai, Greek, Norse, and Christian pantheons surrounded the unconscious Blamuro, special cuffs being prepared to seal his SGN powers. Meanwhile, goddamn, when are you going to go down? Naruto shouted as he punched Great Red in the face with his Susanoo. Great Red bled heavily, gasped heavily, and was smiling. Why do you ask? You getting tired, boy? Great Red asked his opponent as he stared Naruto down as he reconvened with Kurama and Isabu. Damn, I am down to 2 of the puppets, and while it helps to be alone with my chakra being whole, and the fact my adamantine sealing chains have sealed a good chunk of his power, Naruto thought as he looked at the many chains wrapped around the dragon's arms, legs, and long neck. He still has a fuck ton of fight left. I can go all eternity. Great Red stated as he wiped his mouth of the blood, spitting it out. So can I, you great fuck. Naruto stated as he disengaged his Susanoo, taking the form of Kokuo. Boil style, unrivaled charge. Dragon Mountain. And that concludes our bi-decade meeting. Tiamat said as she stood up, Yulong, Loco, and the mini Hormungandr side, rubbing their shoulders. Sitting in stone chairs for over a month messes your spine and shoulders up after all. It was pleasant to see you all again, but I must be getting home. Loco said as she got out of her chair. Yulong snickered, catching Loco's eye. What home? He asked sarcastically as he gave Loco his full attention. You and the sage killed your pantheon. Loco's eyes opened in the narrowest cracks, where one could not see her eyes, but if you knew her, you could tell they were open. Malicious intent hidden within, barely restrained. Loco ignored her fellow Dragon King as she took flight. Hours later, Kyoto, TNI Department. Blamuro sat on his knees, hands cuffed behind him as his head violently jerked to the right. Nearby was a recording crystal, glowing a faint blue to show it was recording the words and sounds made in the room. His eyes were closed as he chewed before spitting out a blood and saliva-soaked tooth, opening his eyes to defiantly glare at his interrogator. Who sent you here to kill Lady Yasaka? His interrogator, a rat yokai, asked again for the umpteenth time that day. Blamuro simply smiled defiantly, his cheek swelling from the recent punch. Haven't you heard of romance? Blamuro cheekily asked his interrogator. I don't give up the goods for free, sweetheart. The interrogator growled, his fist coming up to hit Blamuro again, only to stop when the door opened, revealing Loco. I have been briefed on the situation, so I will take over. She told the interrogator. Yes, Lady Loco. He said with a bow, leaving the room. So, what are you going to do? Blamuro asked, his swollen face flushed pink as he stared at Loco's body. I fucking her. Blow me to get me to talk. Loco wasn't wearing anything revealing. The most conservative kimono, gray with a navy blue obi, was worn, and she pulled out a fan, opening it with graceful ease. Era. Loco chuckled, a faint smile on her lips. Such a foul mouth you have, asking a taken woman for an oral favor like that. Blamuro chuckled. Well, when you have been staring at a blasted rat for 24 hours, Blamuro stated, leering at the door. One can be very appreciative to see a beauty. Thank you, but, Loco said as she closed her fan and held it out, pressing it against Blamuro's chin, tilting his head up. We aren't here for idle chit-chat. Sorry, love. Blamuro said as he pushed her fan off. But I am not going to say anything. Really? Loco asked, her lip in a pout. Yeah, because I am not a snitch, my master has utmost faith in me. Blamuro boasted proudly. I am sure he is making plans to free me as we speak. Are you sure about that, Blamuro? An irritated and disappointed tone asked in his mind, sending chills down Blamuro's spine. Blamuro gasped, his pupils dilating, nearly vanishing. Master. He gasped, which had Loco on edge. Who are you talking to? Master, I swear, I haven't said anything. I won't say anything that can. I know, but I won't risk my plans being revealed. Euclid told Blamuro. So, it seems our alliance is at an end. It's a shame, the data your boosted gear provided was and is a positive, But you are not. Master, please. Blomuro shouted before he spasmed violently. His spine arched backwards, disgusting snapping and popping sounds tearing from his back, his pain-filled screams echoing. Loco. Drake shouted from Blomuro's hand, catching her attention. Drake. Beware. He shouted as a gray foam started to emit from Blomuro's mouth. His master has the sages. Blomuro's heart, lungs, stomach, intestines, and other organs ruptured, spreading the gray from within his body. Drake faded from Blomuro's body, returning to the reincarnation cycle of the sacred gears. Blomuro's body started to rapidly decay, his skin drying out as it started to recede and shrivel as it shrank onto his bones. His organs started to writhe and bubble, as if it was about to explode to spread the foam. Lady Yasaka, the interrogator shouted as he entered the room. What is? Loco reacted, pushing the man out of the room, and with a swift movement of her hand, she used magic to burn Blomuro's corpse in her rainbow flames before that could happen. Damn. Loco growled in irritation. Fuck, I am sorry. The interrogator apologized. We didn't think the devil would have been rigged with a trap. Please, forgive us. No, there is no need to apologize. Loco said as she turned to him. I am just happy we are alive, but if only he and Drake could have been able to say who the man behind this was. Loco returned her gaze to the charred spot where Blomuro once occupied. Drake said they had something of the sage. Did he mean Naruto? Loco thought deeply as she soon left the torture and interrogation department. Underworld. Euclid sighed in irritation. I spent 5 years training that man, and yet he was still a disappointment. Euclid thought as he looked at his experiment. An artificial boosted gear, made with shavings from the real boosted gear. It rested in a tank, still taking form as it sat in the preservative fluid. Now I can't get any more data, but at least I am close to figuring out how to use the sage's beast chakra to power this. Euclid thought as he looked at another set of tanks, nine in total with the tailed beast chakra he got from his associates after Zalgia died. Thanks to that, I don't need to use dragon souls. That would have been a fucking bitch and a fuck to get enough of those. Euclid heard a knock at the door. Come in, he said as he snapped his fingers, magic covering the tanks in a thick illusion before the door opened to reveal Graphia Lucifuge, Euclid's older sister. Brother. Graphia said as she bowed to her baby brother. Sister. Euclid said with a bright smile, hugging the wife/queen of Lucifer. How is your research into cellular division and multiplication going? If your experiments are successful, we could regrow limbs, bones, tissue, and a whole manner of important body parts. Graphia said as she knew Euclid's research was very important to the underworld. It is going well, but I have hit a small snag. Euclid said as he searched for something for Graphia to sit on. Excuse the mess, the life of a scientist doesn't give time for cleaning. No, it is quite. Graphia looked around. Alright, it's a mess. Dishes, garbage, and unknown parts of whatever were you all acknowledge over the place. It needs to be cleaned, but I'll get to it later. Euclid chuckled as he found a stool, handing it over to his sister. Meanwhile, Lance cried out as he was being wiped down in disinfectant medicine. Deal with Thuriot. Zest squealed as her own injuries were being disinfected. Oh, you big babies. Dr. Rekha said in irritation. It doesn't hurt that much. It feels like someone is pissing in my wounds, with salt. Lance complained. Oh, come on. The male nurse who was working on Lance said with a cute chuckle. Don't be so negative. This man, who was named Iolaus, gave Lance a gentle tap on his butt, making Lance blush in silence, making small whimpering sounds. Thank God that Zeus left Iolaus behind as my assistant. Rekha thought as she finished tending to Zest's major burns. Thankfully, no major areas were destroyed, but the post for the guard was going to be rebuilt, and with their manpower being thinned to make up for this, Zeus left several of H soldiers and some healers behind. Alright, turn. Rekha told Zest as she pulled out a thread and needle. Zest visibly blanched. She was terrified/hated enclosed spaces, and was nervous around needles. Zest closed her eyes, biting her lip, frantically asking if Rekha was done as she started to stitch a nasty cut shut. Compound. Phew, Akasha gasped as she sat at her desk, stretching, finished with today's. Here. Haribal said as she dropped another large stack of paper onto Akasha's desk. What? Akasha screamed with tears in her eyes. There's more. Harem nodded her head. Of course, this paperwork is for the new guard post where Lance and Zest fought that red guy. Harem informed, her arms stiff from the bandages. Shouldn't you be resting? Akasha asked as she started to work on her new pile of paperwork. Yeah, but I am head of the guard, so no. Harem tensed, biting her lip as her eyes watered in pain. Yeah, you should go lie down. Akasha said as she watched Harem tense. No. I don't. Yes, Yasaka said as she appeared behind Harem. You do. With a swift chop, Harem went down, being caught by Yasaka's shadow clone. I'll take her to her room. The clone said as they left. Yasaka sat opposite of Akasha, grabbing half of the paperwork and started helping her. You worried about Naruto? Akasha asked, not looking up from the paperwork. Come on, I've known you your entire life, Yasaka. Yeah, I am worried about Papa. Yasaka admitted in sincere worry. It has been over a month, and yet. The door opened again, this time Hilda with a tray of tea. Naruto has vanished before, Hilda said as she set the tea for herself, her daughter, and Yasaka. Didn't stop him from coming back. How about you, Mom? Akasha asked in more concern. Hilda smiled sadly. I believe Naruto will return. She said with shaky confidence. Meanwhile, Afaiz sat alone before a small koi fish pond in the middle of a deep forest in the Ainu region of Japan. She once again changed forms, taking a more mature version of her loli, but kept her hair short, as she lifted up an oversized sake gourd with one hand, lifting it to her lips. Several giant gulps were heard before she put it down, wiping her mouth as she did. The pond was deep, and very cold. Within many koi swam, but there were two that stood out. Two large koi in particular, one dark with white eyes and a white spot on its head, and a white one with a black spot on its head with gray eyes, swimming in a circle. You two have it simple, don't you, Tui, La? Afaiz asked, her voice more mature. It's true, we push and pull. Tui, the white moon spirit, replied, while never stopping. But our lives are never simple, Afaiz. La, the black ocean spirit replied as he kept swimming with Tui. 1. Afaiz dismissed this. Why have you come here, Afaiz? Tui asked the ancient lowly dragon. My son is fighting a battle, of my own creation. Afaiz told the ancient moon and ocean spirits. Because I wasn't strong enough to defeat my enemy, Ashura is fighting my battle. I have sent him to his death. What makes you think that he is going to die? La asked as they two koi spun around in the pond. Because I. Afaiz started to tear up, covering her right eye with her hand to futilely dry her tears, snot running down her nose. I couldn't stop the fucking red bastard from breaking my family apart. Tui and La continued to swim in their circle, but their spirits departed their bodies, putting their hands on Afaiz's shoulders. Tui was tall, had tan skin, white hair, gray eyes, an elegant dress made of white and light gray fabric. Her black mark on her forehead was covered by an Ainu head dress. La had darker skin, gray eyes, with blue Ainu clothing decorated in white tribal markings. His head was shaved, revealing the white mark on his forehead. You are not a horrible person, they said in unison, smiling to give their support to Afaiz. Ashura. Naruto, he chose to fight, and even now, he fights. Afaiz curled into the fetal position, collapsing to her side. Shaken, she grabbed the sake gourd and continued to drink. Tui and La's smiles faded as their spiritual forms returned to their bodies, swimming in their eternal dance of push and pull. 3 days later. Really, you asked Iolaus out to dinner? Hilda asked in surprise when Lance told the table about his plans. Lance, with red cheeks, averted his gaze with a nervous smile on his lips. Why yeah. He mumbled. Oh, that is cute. Loco said as she pinched Lance's cheek. I hope you two hit it off. Plus, he is Greek, so he might be the one. Master, please don't. Lance whined as Loco chuckled. Hey, you should be proud you found someone. Yasaka said as she leaned into Lance, putting her arm around him. At least you found it on your first try. I dated a man once, total dickhead who wanted to marry me for status. Kicked his ass really quick. Oh, really? Hilda asked with a narrow eye. How come I don't remember that happening? I don't recall that ever happening either. Loco chimed in. You made it up. Lance asked Yasaka, who in turn avoided her gaze. Yeah, of course. I am bi, so of course I dated a guy. Yasaka stated in a shaky voice. I'm home. The group turned to Zest, who was soaked in sweat, her bandages all loose and bloodied. I want some ramen. Zest said before she collapsed, gasping for air as she excreted more sweat than she normally should be. Hour later. Seems that Zest overexerted herself. Rekha told the family as she walked out of Zest's room. I told her to wait until her wounds finished healing, but no, she wants to complete the raise non. Lance said as he looked at Zest's door. She feels like she has found a way to do it, since our fight with the Red Dragon. Loko's expression soured. I wish we could have gotten more information out of him. Loko stated in irritation. All we know is that this master has something of Naruto's. But what? Everything he has is here, and we would have been able to find out if someone broke in. Yasaka stated as she was equally confused. I don't know, but Drake isn't the kind of person to lie, well, except when he promised to return Tiamat's treasure. Loko said, nodding as she remembered the reason why Tiamat hated Drake. What did he do? Lose it? Lance asked curiously. He stole Tiamat's treasure, promised to return it, but it ended up getting destroyed when we fought. Albion chuckled, remembering the fear in Drake's eyes that day when the treasures broke. Oh, God, that day was one of the best days of my life. Yeah, Tiamat actively hates Drake and is known to kill his users if she finds them. Loko added. Good thing I got you instead, Albion. Lance thought nervously with a heavy sweat drop. Albion was also grateful, since he too had the idea of stealing Tiamat's treasure, but thought about a few days after Drake did, so he didn't get the chance to. Has anyone seen Off-Eyes? Yasaka asked as she realized she hadn't seen Off-Eyes since before Blamuro's attack. Spirit Oasis. Off-Eyes hazily got up, back to her normal form, just with short hair. She grabbed her gourd and drank from it, or would have if it wasn't empty. I need more alcohol, she thought as she tried to get the last few drops out of it. Tisk. She tossed the gourd aside, shattering upon impact with a tree from the amount of strength she used in what appeared to be a simple toss. Off-Eyes inhaled, before burping loudly enough to shake the forest. Seems someone is awake. Tui mumbled from the oasis. Morning, Off-Eyes. Law spoke up from the oasis. Off-Eyes ignored them as she wiped her eyes of sleep, and dried tear/sake stains. Morning. Was all she said when she finished. I apologize for my behavior, I thank you, deeply. Anytime, old friend. Tui and Law said in unison, continuing their dance of push and pull. Off-Eyes opened a portal to Kyoto, but stopped herself from entering. Her soul seemed to shiver in an intense cold, her stomach doing cartwheels as she changed the location of her portal. Off-Eyes had one destination in mind. Dimensional gap. Naruto shouted as he stabbed his heirloom sword into Great Red's body, the whole blade sinking in before he sliced, effectively cutting deep of the dragon's flesh. How long have we been fighting? Great Red roared in pain before he spun himself around, pushing Naruto away with the winds he created. What is wrong, kid? Great Red gasped tiredly, an enthusiasm in his tone. You running, out of steam already? Maybe, old man, how about you? Naruto replied tiredly. You willing to listen to me now? Because during all this fighting, an idea popped into my head that could make us all happy. Great Red chuckled. Perhaps. He said in exhaustion. He scratched his wrist, where the adamantine chains of sealing were still in place. If only I could get these damned chains off, then I could eclipse his power enough to kill him. Even so, he can siphon my power with that weird ability, but he can only take so much, and he is being very cautious to not take too much. A plan formulating into his head, Great Red was ready for his final gambit. Seems we are about to end this fight, for real. Naruto thought as he felt himself nearing his end. His hands were badly damaged, more or less just muscle on exposed bones at this point, with the bleeding stemmed by his partners. This guy might be expecting me to be careful, and use my absorption ability, but I don't think I can stomach any more of his power at all. Naruto thought carefully as he summoned Kurama's avatar as he led his sword. All my puppets for the beasts are destroyed, so I have to use this. His Rhine sharing and pulsated, his Susanoo enveloping Kurama's avatar. Armor with an ONI-like skull appeared, with an ethereal sword appearing in Kurama's right hand. Great Red channeled as much of his power into his hands, making his final gamble. Great Red and Naruto lunged forward, their war cries echoing through the gap as the sword in Great Red's fist went to connect. Enough. A flash of light, and once again, the dimensional gap was sliced open, and all dimensions were visible again for all to see, and all could see the dimensional gap for a second time. What is wrong, kid? Great Red gasped tiredly, an enthusiasm in his tone. You running out of steam already? Maybe, old man, how about you? Naruto replied tiredly. You willing to listen to me now? Because during all this fighting, an idea popped into my head that could make us all happy. Great Red chuckled. Perhaps. He said in exhaustion. He scratched his wrist, where the adamantine chains of sealing were still in place. If only I could get these damned chains off, then I could eclipse his power enough to kill him. Even so, he can siphon my power with that weird ability, but he can only take so much, and he is being very cautious to not take too much. A plan formulating into his head, Great Red was ready for his final gambit. Seems we are about to end this fight, for real. Naruto thought as he felt himself nearing his end. His hands were badly damaged, more or less just muscle on exposed bones at this point, with the bleeding stemmed by his partners. This guy might be expecting me to be careful, and use my absorption ability, but I don't think I can stomach any more of his power at all. Naruto thought carefully as he summoned Kurama's avatar as he led his sword. All my puppets for the beasts are destroyed, so I have to use this. His Rhine Sharingan pulsated, his Susanoo enveloping Kurama's avatar. Armor with an ONI-like skull appeared, with an ethereal sword appearing in Kurama's right hand. Great Red channeled as much of his power into his hands, making his final gamble. Great Red and Naruto lunged forward, their war cries echoing through the gap as the sword in Great Red's fist went to connect. Enough. A flash of light, and once again, the dimensional gap was sliced open, and all dimensions were visible again for all to see, and all could see the dimensional gap for a second time. Before Naruto's blade in Great Red's fist was off eyes, her magical circles before her palms, stopping them. Like the two combatants, off eyes looked like hell. The remnants of her magic were in her palms, which quickly ended, returning to her as she fell. Off eyes. Naruto shouted as he disengaged Susanoo armor and reached out half to catch her, except only for Red to sucker and punch Thwink. Gya, you bastard. Great Red shouted as Naruto's heirloom sword impaled itself in his eye. The adamantine sealing chains around its limbs and body clanked against each other with every movement. The sword, through Naruto's chakra, violently tore itself out of the dragon god's eye before zooming over to Off Eyes, skewering her hand before returning to Off Eyes. Off Eyes, YR. Naruto said as he removed his sword from her hand, sheathing it as he took hold of Off Eyes. I have a plan. Off Eyes whispered as she grabbed Naruto's shirt and pulled him close, whispering her plan. Okay, we can do that. Naruto replied weakly as he felt his body starting to ache. He didn't know how long he had been fighting. It felt like an eternity, and it needed to end. I'm going to enjoy your death, Great Red said as his eye started to heal. Far more than I should. Off Eyes made a snake out of her magic. It wrapped around Naruto's arm, hissing at it opened its mouth, showing off its impressive fangs. Does it have to? Yes, it has to bite you. Off Eyes said as her snake bit Naruto, injecting the magic it was made out of into Naruto, shrinking as every ounce of magic entered Naruto's body. Naruto winced in pain. He didn't like needles or things that could easily break through his body, but he endured it as Great Red prepared to attack again. Okay, I'm ready. Naruto declared as his Rhine Sharingan spun as he prepared to use his attack. Off Eyes focused the last amount of magic she had, a sliver of it saved for later, and opened a gigantic portal behind Great Red. Mugen Shinra Tensei. Naruto shouted as he pushed all but a thimble's worth of chakra and magic into his hands. Great Red was brutally pushed back, spinning from the force of the attack, struggling with all his weakened might. Naruto kept pushing, not letting up. I'm nearly. Naruto thought as his jutsu started to weaken. I can. Off Eyes pulled the portal over Great Red, sealing it shut. That dimension is cut off. Off Eyes lulled as her eyes started to roll into the back of her head from exhaustion. From all others and less. She started to feel heavy, but wait till as she and Naruto started to float in the zero-gravity-like environment of the dimensional gap. We open. Off Eyes fell asleep, floating in the void with Naruto, who slowly reached out as his eyes became heavy. He took her hand, holding it as tightly as he could. A portal opened as he pulled her toward him, Off Eyes bumping into Naruto, pushing the two of them into the portal and into the center of Kyoto, before the public eye. Home. Naruto passed out, Off-Eyes cuddled into his arms, refusing to let her go as first responders attempted to separate them. 2 weeks later, Greece, MT Olympus. Damn, Naruto, you got fucked up. Zeus blatantly stated as he looked at his friend. Naruto was bandaged to the point he looked like a mummy. Papa sure had his ass beat. Yasaka joked, smirking as she knew Naruto would not hit her. Bonkao. Don't insult your dad, Yasaka. Akasha said as she removed her hand from Yasaka's head. Yasaka blew a raspberry before the two of them sat down. Zeus, Hera, Odin, Freya, Naruto, Yasaka, Akasha, Michael, and Gabriel sat at a table. The alliance was meeting once again. Was there something that came up that necessitated this meeting? Michael asked in concern. It was pointless. They all knew why the meeting had been called. They wanted to know what happened in the dimensional gap. Since we are all here, Naruto said, having used chakra to cut a hole for him to speak. Actually, we aren't. What do Yo-Phis? Off-Eyes, significantly not as injured as Naruto, appeared in Naruto's lap, wearing a yukata with short black hair with a camellia flower in her hair. Zeus drew the blade of Olympus. Odin drew Gungnir. Michael summoned 2 swords of light. Whoa, calm down. Naruto said as he entered Kurama mode, Kurama's head covering both himself, Off-Eyes, Akasha, and Yasaka. We are all friends here. Naruto, that is Off-Eyes, the infinite dragon god. Michael declared. We can't. Ashura, they are loud. Off-Eyes interrupted calmly, her eyes dangerously narrowing. Should I kill them? 2 chakra hands were formed. One wrapped around Off-Eyes' waist, and one rested on her head, making her pout and blush. No, Off-Eyes, we are friends, and we are going to talk. Naruto said as he looked his comrades in the eyes. Freya glanced at Hera, who looked at Gabriel, who looked at Freya. Are we going to talk? Yasaka asked nonchalantly. We just need to speak calmly. Papa has her under control. How? Odin asked as he kept his never-miss spear pointed at Off-Eyes. It is uncontrollable, so how can he tame it? Just like how Loki tamed the world serpent, we are family. Off-Eyes stated as she was still pouting, her cheeks flush from being treated like a child in front of the alliance members. You are related, they shouted, making Naruto, Off-Eyes, Yasaka, and Akasha wince. It's a long story, but I'll happily tell you. Naruto said as he prepared to explain. 2 days later. Okay, these replacements are better than before. Naruto said as he stood before the new Biju puppets. Once his bandages were taken off, Naruto jumped ship and fled the hospital to create the replacements. They were solid black rod material, made to look like a puppet with moving joints. Hopefully they are more durable. Naruto thought as he performed the summoning jutsu. 9 puffs of smoke appeared, covering the puppets. Damn, dude, my joints, they are stiff as fuck. Shikako screamed as he tried moving, barely being able to. Naruto, what the fuck? Madatabi wailed as she fell into Isabu, who domino affect into Sun, then Kokuo, then Seiken, then Komei, then Jayaki, then Kurama. Well, I guess it is back to the drawing board. Naruto said as he cancelled his jutsu. There you are. Naruto winced as he felt Hilda grab him. You are still injured, so back. I'm perfectly fine, Hilda, I swear. Naruto said before being smacked. No arguing. Hilda yelled at him, her eye narrowing, threatening him to attempt to argue. Yes, ma'am. That night, Off-Eyes, Naruto, Loco, Hilda, Zest, Akasha, Haribel, Lance, and Iolaus sat in the hot springs. You guys sure we don't need to bathe separately? Iolaus asked again. He wasn't against bathing in groups, but with his relationship with Lance, he felt self-conscious being around the family naked. It's okay, Iolaus, we don't mind. Loco said as she drank milk while Naruto, Hilda, Yasaka, and Akasha drank sake, all of them tipsy. Off-Eyes, meanwhile, was chugging alcohol out of a gourd 5 times her size. I'm sorry for repeating myself, it's just. Iolaus mumbled as he looked at Lance, taking in his lover's body. Lance caught his glance, and smiled, taking his hand. Skip, 1793. Yes. Zest shouted as she held up a completed raised non. Good for you, sis. Lance said as he patted her on the back, a little too hard, causing Zest to trip, slamming the jutsu into the ground, creating a gigantic crater. You asshole, what was that for? Zest shouted as she got up, growling at Lance. Was an accident. Zest and Lance slammed their heads together, glaring at each other in the eyes before they jumped away, Lance donning his armor. I guess I'll test my raise non on you, you fuck. Zest shouts as she jumped with her powerful legs. Lance took flight, heading towards Zest at equal speed. Nearby, Naruto sat with Loco and Hilda, sunbathing. Kids will be kids. Naruto said with a chuckle as Hilda and Loco giggled, both wearing swimsuits to get a tan. Skip. Wait, I finally get to start learning how to use lava style. Zest asked stupidly. Yep, and I know you are going to be trained with a master. Naruto said as he summoned Son Goku, who glared at Zest. Daughter. Zest was confused, squinting, but then recognized the chakra signature, which matched hers. Father. She said with a bow. I am in your care, sensei. Son smirked. All right, Zest, we shall start immediately. Son said as a scream from Lance echoed in the distance as Off-Eyes was sparring with Lance. This is fun. Off-Eyes said in her usual monotone voice as she trained Lance. Skip. What do you mean you want to break up with me? Iolaus shouted at Lance. Because it is dangerous. Lance shouted in tears, huffing as he gasped for breath. Fiona already kidnapped you once, I can't risk you being attacked again. You're scared. What? Of course I am not scared of Fiona. I mean you are scared of losing me. What is wrong with that? The couple argued, and ended with Iolaus punching Lance to the ground. After everything we have been through, you are abandoning me because you can't accept the fact you are in a dangerous position. Iolaus states in tears, his fist and heart aching. Fuck you, just fuck you to hell. Lance, his cheek swollen, wept in silence as his beloved left him. Iolaus would sadly pass away during a raid in his homeland of Greece, due to the Persian Empire attacking it. Lance was devastated. Skip. It was 1831. Naruto, Zest, Loco, and Hilda sat next to Lance's bed. The White Dragon Emperor, the man who defeated 3 Red Dragon Emperor, the strongest White Dragon, was now an old man. He was 95, and had fallen down the stairs from a misstep, leading to him currently being in the hospital with medical equipment hooked up to him with a breathing apparatus. His body was much thinner than it was when he was in his prime, but he still had muscle. His once red hair was now white with strips of red at random, especially in his long beard that went to his chest. I am sorry. Lance apologized as he looked at Naruto. Master. I am sorry you had to see me in this state. If only I was a bit younger then. He raised his hand, thoughts and memories flashing before his eyes. I only wish Iolaus was still here. Lance mumbled as he closed his eyes, which started to water. You know. He wiped his eyes. I never saw having a sacred gear a curse, Bulleten right now, having lost Iolaus. I wish I never had a sacred gear. Naruto shifted closer and took Lance's hand, squeezing it as Loco ran her hand across his head. My mother and I were abandoned by my father because of Albion being in me. Lance choked out. Then my mother blamed me for her losing status. Lance. Zest whispered as she wanted to comfort her sibling, but could not figure out what to do. I just wanted a normal life, and you gave me something more. Lance continued as he calmed down a bit. I met you, Zest, Loco, Hilda. Iolaus. He took a deep breath. Then that fight with Blomuro, and then there was Fiona and after her was Elsha. Lance sighed with a weak smile. Master, do you think I made a difference? Lance asked, eyes closed. Did I show that the fate of the white and red dragons can be changed to a friendly rivalry? That there doesn't need to be senseless death for these two? Naruto didn't answer immediately. I believe you did. Naruto answered with a strained voice. I believe. Lance, you did make a difference. You are the strongest white dragon, so you will be remembered as the one who defied of fate. Lance, Loco whispered. You spared Fiona and Elsha when you beat them, you didn't kill them. They in turn did not retaliate or seek vengeance. I believe you made a difference. Lance. Zest said as she could barely keep her tears at bay. You are a great man, I wish. I just wish you had more time. Iolaus will be waiting for you, I just know it. Hilda told him as she looked at the medical equipment, preparing to turn it off. Lance smiled as brightly as he could, squeezing Naruto's hand. Master, thank you. Lance choked out with tears leaking from his closed eyes. I am so happy that I was able to make you proud. I am happy that I have caring parents, a loving sibling, and a stubborn aunt despite this curse. Hilda scoffed, her visible eye watering, but not breaking tears. Naruto kissed Lance's forehead. I love you, my son. Naruto told him in a strained voice, haggard of breath as Loco kissed Lance's head. And I love you, father. Lance weakly replied before Hilda and Zest kissed Lance's temples. Lance slowly nodded. He was ready. Hilda stood up, and turned off the machines. The oxygen that was being pumped into his lungs stopped. His weak breathing was wheezing and cough-filled as he reached the end of his journey. Albion, take care of your next host, and try to pass on my teachings. Lance whispered. Albion started to vanish from Lance's body as he started to die. I will, Lance. Albion promised before he disappeared from Lance's soul. Naruto shuddered and pressed Lance's cold hand against his forehead. Lance was dead. He passed away peacefully with his loved ones. 2 days later. The gathering was silent after they lowered Lance into the ground. He was buried beside Iroh, Maiko, and Tamamo with soil from his homeland. With the group, was Elsha, the current Red Dragon who was staying with them for a while. She was going to receive training, wanting to take Lance's mission of changing the fate of the Red and White Dragons on her shoulders. Ashura. Afaiz said, taking the appearance of a small fox child with jade green hair and sapphire eyes. It's time. Naruto stepped away from the morning party and opened a portal, which he stepped through. Heaven. What brings you here today, Naruto? Michael asked as he handed Naruto a cup of tea. Michael. Naruto said in a serious tone, looking into his tea, seeing his reflection. I want to talk about the sacred gear system. What about it? Is there a glitch you noticed? Michael asked in concern. No, I want to ask if you could turn it off. Michael stared at Naruto in confused disbelief. Naruto's saddened face looked back at Michael. I can't do that, you know this already. Michael replied as he set his tea down. I know, but I just felt like I needed to ask. Get it off my chest. Naruto replied as he sipped his tea, slurping loudly as he stared past Michael with a dull look in his eyes. Why did you think this? Michael asked Naruto. Because, my son just died, and he mentioned that having a sacred gear is like a curse. He sacrificed much happiness to become strong, and to save himself from being hurt. Naruto said as he set his cup down, putting his hand over his face. I just don't want others to suffer. Think about it. Naruto removed his hand. You know the devils created that evil peace system, and are turning humans and other supernatural beings into devils. The majority of them are humans with sacred gears, so why not end the system and save them? Because my father made the sacred gears so humanity had a way to fight. And painted a target on their back. Naruto fired at Michael. As we sit here talking, someone is probably being attacked for their gear or being turned against their will. Michael, your father was a great man, but you aren't him. If you want to live up to him, then don't just mimic him, do things different and surpass him. Michael stood up, hands slamming onto the table. Naruto. He nearly shouted, but caught himself. Michael took a deep breath. I do know. He replied after a few seconds. You are right, my father did paint a target on humanity's back, but I won't undo his creation because there are humans who benefit from having them. Naruto wanted to argue, but stood down. I see, let's agree to disagree. Naruto said as he stood up, bowing to Michael before he opened a portal. Michael, I do believe God would prefer if you didn't strictly follow tradition, because a father is most proud when his children branch out and become a being of their own. Naruto entered the portal, returning to Kyoto. Michael sat back down, fingers on his temple in thought. Night. To Lance. Naruto, Afaiz, Hilda, Loco, Zest, Akasha, Yasaka, Haribel, Zeus, Hera, Odin, Freya, and many others said as they held up their sake cups, water for Loco, and drank it. The morning party had passed, and the celebration of life had just begun. 1849, Wallachia, Carmilla Castle. Byakuro Carmilla was rattled as she sat at her desk in her study within her magnificent castle that she had inherited from her great-aunt Carmilla of Syria. It had been over 354 years since the war between the Carmilla faction and Teeps faction of the vampire faction started in 1495, and it had just been a stalemate for the last few decades. Damn Akasha. Gyakuro thought as she smashed her fist into her desk before swiping all of the things on it off. If only you had died with Vlad, then the Teeps would have been absorbed into the Carmilla clan. Lady Gyakuro. What? Gyakuro stated in anger as her door was opened to reveal a servant. Why you have visitors? The servant shakily reported. They are waiting in the east greeting room. Gyakuro's visage snarled as she stood up. As long as I win this war, Gyakuro thought as she grabbed a shoulder shawl / jacket / cape and threw it over her shoulders. I will be able to erase all presence and trace of the Teeps, especially with this. Gyakuro's hand grazed the item she was thinking of in her cloak as she exited her study. Servants hid within other rooms as their master walked through the halls of the fabled castle of Carmilla. Making her way to the east wing, Carmilla found the greeting room, pushing the door open with grandeur. Welcome to Castle Carmilla, Gyakuro greeted with a suave smile and tone. I am Gyakuro Carmilla. Gyakuro's calm, suave demeanor shattered as her eyes pulsed with blood rage as she realized who was waiting for her. Akasha Teeps. Yasaka Uzumaki. Harem of the Seven Swordsmen of Kyoto. Well? Akasha asked as she was the only one sitting, with Yasaka and Harem standing behind her. Gyakuro moved to sit opposite of Akasha. How many years has it been since we last saw each other? Akasha asked, trying to break the ice. Not long enough. Gyakuro replied heatedly as she snapped her fingers. A few servants entered, carrying trays. Alcohol or tea? Tea, please. Akasha asked as she smiled, bowing lightly in respect. Without needing to ask Gyakuro, the servants served Earl Grey tea to Akasha and heavy alcohol to Gyakuro, who took the bottle instead of the shot glass. Why are you here? Gyakuro asked as she wiped her mouth, her scowl never once softening. Akasha quietly drank her tea as Yasaka's eyes narrowed while Harem, who had same had a sealed into a scroll at her hip, felt restless. This woman's bloodlust and anger is obvious, like she isn't trying to hide it. Harem thought as Akasha put her tea down. I came here as a diplomat. Akasha said as she pulled out a scroll of parchment paper. This is a treaty that can end this war between the Carmilla and Teeps. I may not have been here for the entirety of the war, but I can feel the anguish of the Carmilla and Teeps. They want it to end. Mother and myself spent a long time coming up with ways both sides can. Alcohol was thrown into Akasha's face as Gyakuro laughed. You think a piece of paper can stop this war? Gyakuro asked in a tired craze. No, I will not allow that to happen. The Teeps will submit to the Carmilla, or else this war goes on. Yasaka snarled, baring her fangs as Harem was prepared to summon Samehada as Gyakuro's power started to fill the room like water, preparing to drown them. Akasha sighed in sadness, raising a hand to wipe her booze-soaked hair out of her eyes, opening her pale green eyes showing sadness. Then I guess I shall throw my hat into this ring. Akasha said as she calmly stood up, causing Gyakuro to jump back, anticipating a fight. Gyakuro, I challenge you to a fight. Huh? Gyakuro asked as she tilted her head, her platinum blonde hair following gravity. I shall end this with a single fight. Akasha declared as she pointed at her adversary. Tomorrow, you and I shall fight, staking our lives in combat at the plateau of the beheaded. Gyakuro was confused, but then smiled with a dark chuckle. A fight? Fine, I can settle this war faster. She chuckled. The Teeps will be demoralized when I display your corpse to them. Akasha made no facial expressions or movements to indicate irritation from Gyakuro's provocation. She simply bowed, lifting her dress skirt slightly before turning and leaving the room, followed by Yasaka and Harem. That bitch is crazy. Yasaka grumbled. I could practically taste her malice without negative emotion sensing. Same, but without Samehada. Harem replied as the trio made their way out of the castle, the servants bowing in respect. I hate how Gyakuro got to this point, but it is just the outcome of a war. Akasha said as she was ready to bathe. The reason Akasha had decided to confront Gyakuro was due to a messenger from the Carmilla clan. The Carmilla clan, arriving half dead in Japan, with a note begging Naruto to stop the infighting. Naruto was prepared to do it, but Akasha stepped in and said, as head of foreign affairs, and as a member of the Teeps, I shall do it. Naruto wanted to argue, but Hilda kept him silent as she, Loco, and Afaiz gave them their blessing. Zest was against Akasha going alone, thus Yasaka and Harem went with her, leaving Naruto in charge of Kyoto until their return. Let's just find a place to sleep, preferably one next to the restaurant to another world. Akasha stated as she was pretty hungry, having been nervous the entire day and not eating. Here. Yasaka said with a very Naruto-like smile as Harem nodded, looking forward to the meal. The trio took 10 minutes to find one of the magical doorways to Nikoya, and then took another 10 to find a place for Akasha to bathe and wash the stink of alcohol off of her evening, Castle Carmilla. The orange evening light illuminated Gyakuro as she sat alone at the large dining table, a massive feast before her in pre-celebration as many of her people, soldiers, women, and children were starving. Guzzling down a goblet of wine, most dripping down her lips, chin, and neck, Gyakuro enjoyed her drunkenness as she tossed the empty goblet aside. More. She shouted as she continued to devour her food. Tomorrow, this war will end and I shall stand on top. The light dimmed as Gyakuro continued to eat and drink while the moon's light entered the windows. Candles were lit to provide light throughout the castle. Gyakuro, after many hours of celebrating, stumbled out of the dining hall, her dress ruined, food covering her caramel skin, and her red eyes hazy and tired as she walked into the long hall. The room became cold enough for Gyakuro to feel it as the candles died, the moonlight leaving the room in white, gray, and black. Hey, relight the candles. Gyakuro ordered, wanting to see clearly on the way to her chambers. Usually, she would hear the terrified shuffles of feet running around to get the hall lit up, but no such sound was heard. Only the soft, gentle, and terrifying sound of a single pair of footsteps hitting the carpeted floor, the sound of a cane being used reverberating in the still air. Hilda Teeps entered the moonlight, standing 40 feet, 3 giant windows worth of space, away from Gyakuro. How pathetic you are. Hilda said as she held up and unfurled her parasol, which she was using as a cane, and looked toward the moon. Unlike the majestic moon, you are pathetic. Gyakuro snarled. And what do you know, traitor? Gyakuro screamed, hands before her, fingers twitching. You betrayed us by marrying Vlad's ilk. You continued to dig your grave by fathering that bitch Akasha. Hilda's face kept her face neutral, spinning the parasol in her hand, tilting her head. I fell in love. Hilda told Gyakuro. I worked hard for Bedlam, and I met Adrian. He captured my heart, so I worked for him, and then we fell in love. Gyakuro leaned back and laughed, hand on her face. Then your husband died and you started banging his best friend. Gyakuro scrutinized as she pointed at Hilda. You make me sick. Just get out of here. Gyakuro looked at Hilda, only to see she wasn't there. Hilda! Gyakuro screamed, shattering the glass. Kyoto! You were a part of the Carmilla clan. Naruto asked in surprise, eyes wide with said emotion as he and Hilda worked on paperwork. Yeah. I was raised in it. Bedlam was a member of the Carmilla faction. Hilda said in shame, red in the cheeks. I am not proud of it, but I didn't believe their rhetoric. It was pure blood mania. While the Teeps, who was led by Vlad, who was also the king of vampires in all the families, didn't really mind that. Naruto stated as he knew how the Teeps clan worked. The Teeps, while strong and proud, were willing to show compassion and listen when fists and blood were not needed. Hilda nodded. I can see why you didn't want to get involved. Naruto said as he ran his hand through his hair. But I feel like leaving it on Akasha's shoulders is bad. I mean, she isn't really a part of the faction, and it was something that happened during our youth. I feel bad too, but Akasha was the one who felt strongly about it. I would have preferred if she had just let that damn faction disappear. Hilda stated seriously. We vampires should just stay divided into families now that the king is dead. We have no need to fight each other. Hilda shook as she gripped her brush. Naruto didn't say anything as he stood up and hugged Hilda. Hilda took a haggard breath as she leaned into Naruto's arms. Next day, Plateau of the Beheaded, Wallachia. The dwindling armies of Carmilla and Teeps stood around the plateau with a wide gap between all of them as their leaders made their way to the top of the large, empty top of the plateau. She looks like shit. Yasaka mumbled as she, Harem and Akasha looked at Gyakuro as she stumbled toward them with 2 armed warriors behind her. Smells like piss too. Harem grumbled as she waved her hand before her face, trying to get the smell out. I am glad you gave me this chance. Gyakuro stated as she approached Akasha. Akasha wore a gray dress, tight on the torso, but the skirt was skirt in length, but had space for her to fully move her legs without restriction. Her long hair was tied up into a ponytail. Gyakuro's attire consisted of a black, oversized commander jacket, under which is a short black dress with an empire halter and a necklace with multiple cross-shaped pendants. She also wears gladiator-like sandals. Her eyes were like an animal that was about to snap. Akasha held no anger, only sadness as she motioned for Yasaka and Harem to move back. "I'll give you one more chance," Akasha said as she looked at Gyakuro, pleading with her eyes and tone. "Please, let us talk and end this war with peace." Gyakuro didn't laugh, didn't sneer, leer, or make any confident move or statement as she stared at Akasha. "Your desire for peace makes me sick," Gyakuro stated as she tossed off her commander jacket, which was caught by her armored servants, who moved back to avoid the fight. "I shall enjoy killing you, showing your followers your corpse, and I will take pleasure in their fear and horror." A stray tear was wiped away when Akasha closed her eyes. "So be it," Akasha said as she took her stance as Gyakuro took hers. Vampire. Both women waited for an opening as two massive whirlpools of vampiric magic blew upward like a geyser. Onlookers for both sides collapsed from the pressure, foaming at the mouth as the weakest died from the vileness of the magic. Enemy zero. Gyakuro thought as she activated her best skill. An unseen sphere enveloped the plateau, the surrounding forest, and people. She has activated. Akasha thought, eyes starting to widen as Gyakuro appeared behind her, hand open. "Akasha!" Yasaka and Harem shouted as they recognized the technique Gyakuro was using. Akasha jumped forward, allowing her dress skirt being shredded as Gyakuro's Jijinto-yu cut into it. The Jijinto-yu. Akasha thought as she spun in the air, landing on her feet as she skidded backwards, only to jump backwards as Gyakuro kept attacking. "You think I'd fight you without a trump card?" Gyakuro shouted as she swung her hand down, her hand phasing through a tree before it was obliterated. "You are merely copying my technique," Akasha said as she landed behind Gyakuro. "I know of your enemy Zero's ability of copying techniques, which is why that Jijinto-yu is just a cheap imitation. You should train in it more." Gyakuro smirked as the palms of her eyes wavered before splitting open and revealing eyes. Not just any eyes, but ripple-patterned eyes. Fire burst from her left hand as she swung it in an arc, causing Akasha to defend. "This is Kitsunbai," Akasha thought as she recognized the type of yokai fire. Gyakuro's laugh continued as she swung her right hand toward the sky before swinging it down. Lightning struck Akasha, causing her to scream as her defenses were disrupted. "Was that a cheap imitation, Akasha?" Gyakuro laughed as her attack ended, steam sizzling from charred flesh on Akasha. You devoured yokai," Akasha demanded as she lowered her arms, anger in her voice. "A fox and a thunder beast, that's why you could use Kitsunbai and Electro-Asilbop." Gyakuro laughed as she held out her hands, revealing. "How the fuck does she have those Rinnegan?" Yasaka shouted as she saw the eyes. "Only Papa should have it." Gyakuro tilted her head back as she giggled. "Your Papa isn't the only person to gain these," she said with snark. "I am a scientist, and after many years of study, I was able to come up with these copies." "You are sick," Harem said as she appeared behind Gyakuro, same Hada raised to strike. Gyakuro ducked, her clothing being shredded by a few of Same Hada's fins with some of her magic being shaved. "You are a fish, obvious weak point," Gyakuro said as she touched Harem with her right hand. Lightning enveloped a shocked Harem. Harem screamed. "Just kidding." "What?" Same Hada hit Gyakuro, slicing multiple lacerations upon the vampire and taking magic as Harem swung her blade, sending Gyakuro across the plateau. Same Hada's handle fused with Harem's hand and began to heal its user. "My Same Hada absorbs all magic and chakra that touches it," Harem said as her wounds healed, including lightning. Gyakuro popped off the ground, her shredded skin stitching itself back together, her right eye partially gouged out with the right side of her face being peeled off showing her skull and teeth. "Interesting, I think I'll take that too," Gyakuro said as a high-pitched sound reached her ears. "Wind style, raisin ring." Yasaka threw her attack with all her might. The discus of chakra whizzed through the air, slicing Gyakuro in two before detonating and creating its oxygen vacuum. "She can't die from that," Akasha said as she finished healing. "Stay out of this, because she could." Harem appeared before Akasha, swinging Same Hada against a second raisin ring, absorbing it in one fell swing. You're open. Gyakuro said as she passed Harem. Harem reeled back as Same Hada and her arms hit the ground. Harem screamed in pain as blood began to spray from her limbs. Gyakuro spun on her heel, breaking Harem's scream in half as she sent the woman through the air and off of the plateau, which had nearly 600 feet of nothing between Harem and the ground. Yasaka created a shadow clone that jumped off the plateau, grabbing Same Hada and Harem's arms, and caught Harem before landing in the trees, cushioning the fall with chakra. You bitch. Yasaka shouted as she charged Gyakuro. Come on, show me more. Gyakuro insisted as she flexed her fingers. Don't. Akasha shouted as she saw blue fin-like protrusions appear on Gyakuro's arms. Gyakuro broke the gap and slashed Yasaka in the chest, taking a large amount of Yasaka's chakra. That is good. Gyakuro hummed as she felt the chakra fill her missing magic as the fins started to disappear back into her arms. I guess I'll take more. Akasha grabbed Gyakuro's hair and yanked her away from Yasaka, tearing out a chunk of the platinum blonde hair as she tossed Gyakuro several feet away. You starting to get serious now? Gyakuro asked with a sadistic childish smile. Akasha's glare was full of hate. A deep black ichor appeared under Akasha's eyes and bled into her lips as her black blood oozed from her wounds. Well, isn't that interesting? Gyakuro laughed manically. I'm going to kill you. Akasha whispered into Gyakuro's ear. Gyakuro spun, smashing her arms into Akasha, her arms wringing in pain. What? My ultimate defense. Akasha said as she slashed her palms, her blood spilling from the cuts before hardening into pikes, black blood, creepy. Gyakuro laughed as she resummoned her fins, planning on absorbing Akasha's magic. Teach me how to use it. Akasha ignored her opponent as she and Gyakuro clashed. Bloody needle. Gyakuro pushed Akasha's arms aside, kicking Akasha in the chin, several teeth being shattered as Akasha went up. This is the end. Gyakuro shouted in joy as lighting cracked in her right hand. Gyakuro was tackled by Yasaka, who grabbed the vampire in her Sage Mode enhanced grip, and pushed her away from Akasha, who landed on the ground, her wounds closing due to her hardening the black blood. Get off of me, you fox bitch. Gyakuro shouted as she punched Yasaka's back. Yasaka's spine rattled in pain, nearly breaking her stride, but she didn't stop as Gyakuro continued to attack. Fine, I'll drain you into a husk. Gyakuro shouted as she grabbed Yasaka. Yasaka could instantly feel the absorption of her chakra, but she smiled as it was forcibly taken. Papa told me. Yasaka gasped in agony as her arms became weak and her grasp broke. That too much nature energy. Gyakuro punched Yasaka, only to gasp as her hand shattered into stone, and the petrification continued to spread. What is happening? Gyakuro shouted as she tried to stop the petrification, but her movements were starting to slow as she continued to become stone. Too much nature energy. Yasaka coughed. Turns you to stone. Vaihiyasi. Gyakuro shouted as she couldn't move, stopping mid-word as the petrification ended. Gyakuro Carmilla was now a stone statue. Is it over? Yasaka asked as she felt Akasha near her. Akasha didn't respond as she walked up to the now statue Gyakuro. Her anger etched forever into her beautiful face. Petrification was a merciful death. Akasha thought as she touched Gyakuro's head. With a simple flex of her fingers, Gyakuro was turned into a pile of rubble, the fragile stone crumbling. Shit, my clone popped. Yasaka shouted as she shot up, ignoring her back pain. Harem's arms were reattached thanks to Same Hada, but she needs medical attention. She tried to get up, only for her back to make a crack sound before she collapsed. Akasha acted quickly to grab Yasaka and jumped down into the woods, grabbed Harem with Same Hada latching onto Harem's leg. Akasha returned to the Teeps clan to get the immediate healing for her beloveds, but did not stay for herself. Minutes passed as she made her way to the Carmilla clan. She approached them, covered in red and black blood, several teeth missing, her dress ruined. This war, she said as she stood tall, tears in her eyes, is over. A sound sea of relief cries reverberated in the forest, scaring all animals inside. The Carmilla/Teeps clan war had ended with a simple declaration by Akasha Teeps. Western Restaurant Nicoya. After we searched Gyakuro's castle, we searched for hidden sections outside for a 10-mile perimeter. Yasaka said as she and Naruto sat in Nicoya, each with a mug of B. We couldn't find anything, Papa. It's okay, Yasaka. Naruto said as he put his mug down. It's okay to not fail. But she had Rinnegan. Yasaka said urgently. That kind of power can be dangerous, Papa. You should know. She looked at Naruto's forehead, where his Rinnegan was closed. Yes, it is. I am not as calm as I look, Naruto admitted before he drained his beer mug in a few seconds. The fact people are synthetically creating my powers, it irritates me. What are you going to do? Yasaka asked as their order arrived. Naruto didn't answer as he separated his wooden chopsticks. I don't know yet, I need to think before I act. He answered before he started to eat his ramen. We better hurry, if we take too long, we will be late to the alliance meeting. Hour later, Kyoto. You are saying that there are people smart enough to artificially create Naruto's powers? Michael asked in shock as Odin and Zeus didn't like the sound of that. It is possible. Yasaka explained. It is how Zest was born. She was created with my chakra being tampered with before being injected into female yokai. It could be something similar, but targeting my dojutsu. Well, we should have some people search around the world. Odin offered as he summoned an astral raven. As you know, I do have quite the way of gathering information. I do believe that is a good call. Zeus added. I can have Helios keep a lookout from the Sunday. Keep it hush, you hear? Yasaka said as she wanted to keep this whole thing secret. Of course, but what is Naruto's thoughts on this? Zeus asked as he didn't see his old friend. He, Zest, Loco, and Hilda are busy at the moment. Yasaka said as she face-palmed with a sigh. Something about paying a visit. To who? Odin asked. Yasaka hesitated to answer. The devils. Underworld. Thanks, Afaiz. Naruto said as the portal she opened closed. It is no problem, Ashira. Afaiz said as she sat on Naruto's shoulders. I don't know. Loco said as she put her finger to her lips in thought. Do you guys really think storming in is a good idea? We aren't storming in. Hilda said as she gripped her parasol. We are going to walk in and ask for a visit to the Satans, right, Sensei? Zest asked as she had her Tanbo staff at her side. Yeah, we are here to talk. Naruto said as he smiled. Thank God I am not alone in that regard. If it was just me, the other 9 would be demanding I barge in and demand. Fuck you. The tailed beast screamed in Naruto's head. See what I mean? No, we don't. Hilda deadpanned as none of them could herd the beasts. Oh. Naruto said with embarrassment as Afaiz laughed. Don't be too embarrassed, Ashira. You have a good plan. Afaiz said as she squeezed Naruto's neck with her legs. Speaking of plans, I think you should go home, Afaiz. Loco pointed out as she looked at the dragon lowly. I mean, your presence might be counterintuitive. Now. I agree with Loco, Afaiz. Naruto interrupted the dragon god. I think it would be best if you left. Pouting to the point her face looked like a balloon, Afaiz huffed before she vanished. She is mad. Hilda chuckled. Yeah, and she will let me know later. Naruto replied in anxiousness before looking toward Lucifer's castle. But for now, let's focus on diplomacy. I wish Tamamo was here, she was good at this. Much better than I was. Meanwhile, Surtsk's Lucifer was hunched over parchment paper with quill pen in hand. God be damned, this never ends. He grumbled as he continued to write. Tell me about it. Seraphal Leviathan groaned as she pushed away from her desk and stretched. These chairs are so uncomfortable. My back hurts. Maybe if you used magic and altered your form, especially your boobs, Surtsk stated as he rolled up the parchment, sealed it with candle wax before grabbing a new one. Your back wouldn't hurt as much. Hey. Seraphal shouted as she slammed her head on her desk, pointing a finger at her co-worker. That's uncalled for, Zex. Surtsk ignored Seraphal's outburst. Ajuka is lucky, he gets to be in his lab and work on whatever he wants. Surtsk grumbled as he switched to a new parchment. Falbium gets to nap anytime he wants as the head of the army, training them and keeping his own strength. What if you, Ajuka, and I get weaker because we can't keep our training up? Ain't that the truth, Zex? Seraphal agreed as she picked up her quill and continued her work. A knock at the door was heard. Come in, Graphia. Surtsk answered, knowing that it was about the time his wife would come in with snacks and tea. The door opened, allowing Graphia to enter. Lord Lucifer, Lady Leviathan, Grafia said with a polite tone and a bow. There are guests waiting for you. Tell them we are busy. Sirafal replied as she switched parchments. I urge you. Grafia said as she glanced outside the door frame. They are not going to leave. Surtsks and Sirafal looked up as Naruto entered their peripheral, followed by Zest, Loco, and Hilda. Yo. Naruto said with a playful hand wave. The Satans said as their brains took several seconds to realize who was standing before them. Few minutes later. Why are you here, Sage? Falbium asked as he leaned into his hand tiredly. I just have a few questions I would like answers to. Naruto said as he accepted some tea from Grafia, who bowed. This tea is delicious. Loco said as she drank it with a smile, her eyes staying closed. These biscuits are good too. Zest said childishly, crumbs on her face. I like the scones. Hilda said with a soft smile. They are so calm. Ajuka thought as he looked at their guests. Indeed, Naruto, Zest, Loco, and Hilda were quite calm and acting as if it was not out of the ordinary for them. Like it was just another Saturday. What are these questions you mentioned? Sirafal asked as she was head of foreign affairs. Just simple things. Naruto replied with a smile. Like this. Evil peace system. Eyes narrowed as nervous tensions seemed to spike. What would you like to know? Ajuka asked, as he was the creator of the system. Can it be exploited? Can people be forced against their will, and can the reincarnated be called anything else but slaves to their kings? Naruto asked as he looked at Ajuka. I ask because over the last few decades, the leader of Kyoto has been getting lots of reports throughout our country about kidnappings or devil attacks. Ajuka cleared his throat. To answer your questions in order, by exploited, you mean can someone cheat my system? It isn't a wide-known fact, but the system can be tricked with forced reincarnation, but reincarnating a dead person. Ajuka answered with beads of sweat starting to form on his head as the smile on Naruto's face got thin. Reincarnated devils can also rise through the ranks and become high class like their kings. So, they can be relieved of their duties to their king and become a king themselves. Good, I like that. Loco said as she leaned into the table, eyes on her. However, what do you do if the king is abusive to their peerages? We trust. Trust is earned, not given. Naruto interrupted seriously. Surtsks cleared his throat. Believe me, we know that trust is a very fragile thing, but we are keeping track of the kings who have active peerages, and we assure you, abuse of power is strictly penalized, Surtsks told him with confidence. Naruto's smile relaxed. Alright, but now I have another question. Naruto said as his eyes turned red with his pupils becoming vertical slits, accessing Kurama's chakra and negative emotion sensing. Do you know anyone who may have stolen samples of my chakra and using it for nefarious means? Confusion and shock were etched onto the faces of the Satans, looking amongst each other and then Naruto. No, Ajuka said in a confused tone. I don't know any other scientists who have anything like your chakra. No blips of deceit. Naruto thought as he looked over all of the Satans. Okay then, so I guess my questions are now a warning. Naruto took a deep breath. Be careful, people are using my power to make weapons. He said as he looked at Zest, who nodded. My student, Zest here, he gestured to Zest. Was artificially created with my chakra being infused into a woman named Zelda, the wife of Zalgia. He himself was using my chakra to make artificial creatures. So that is why Zalgia vanished all those centuries ago. Ajuka shouted as he stood up in irritation. What is he doing now? I killed him. Naruto told Ajuka. I know, Zest and myself were there. Hilda added as she remembered that day. Zalgia was a cruel man, and he didn't see the creatures he made as living things. Zelda, mother. She was abused and forced to create us. Zest mumbled, remembering the sound of her mother's voice, having barely any memories of what Zelda looked like. I am the only humanoid being created that survived. All of the women used for it and their children were dead. I see. I am sorry. Ajuka apologized. It isn't your fault, but I do ask, Naruto said as he stood up. If you face any enemy that seems to have my power, let me know, don't fight them alone, and if necessary, kill them. Understood, Uzumaki. Surtsks said as he stood up. Naruto and Surtsks approached each other. He is strong, needs to be a Satan. Naruto thought as he took in Surtsks' appearance and power. I would have a hard time fighting him, all of them actually. He looks young, but those eyes show experience of a warrior. Surtsk thought as he held out his hand. We shouldn't make an enemy of him. I remember that day, the faction war. He stopped 3 armies without throwing a single punch. Naruto and Surtsk shook hands. Naruto smiled. Thank you for letting us have this talk. Naruto said as he released Surtsk's hand before pulling out a paper seal. If you need help, don't be afraid of asking us for help. Surtsk accepted the paper seal. Thank you, great sage. Please, call me Naruto. Skip, February, 1928. Naruto sat with Hilda in Providence, Rhode Island, drinking coffee as Naruto read a magazine called Weird Tales as the winter weather provided snowfall. Thank you, Michael, for the gift of tongues. Naruto thought as he could read/speak/write any language thanks to Michael's gift from centuries ago. Turning his page, Naruto quirked an eyebrow. Call of Cthulhu by H.P. Lovecraft. Naruto thought as he saw the title. I do remember someone mentioning that the bastard had cults. Maybe this is a coincidence. Hilda sighed as her coffee warmed her body from within as she looked out the nearby window to watch the snow fall with the gray skies behind it. Naruto, want to go out and make snowmen? Hilda asked in childish glee. Hilda waited for a response. She didn't get one. Hey, Naruto. Hilda asked as she returned her attention to Naruto, gasping when she saw him with his rind sharing and exposed as he sped read through the magazine. Naruto. That bastard. Naruto growled as he gripped the magazine hard enough to tear it apart. Which one? Cthulhu. He growled as he put the magazine pieces on the table, pushing it toward her. He is somehow communicating with this Lovecraft guy. I know he was sealed inside T-Gourd, so how? Well, remember what Michael said? Hilda spoke as she remembered an old conversation from the previous November. He said that angels can input ideas and memories into the heads of mortals, maybe Cthulhu. This word was spoken with anger and spike as she would never forget about his spawn possessing Akasha and Vlad. Did this, or is doing this? I don't know. Naruto grumbled, his day ruined as he drank his coffee, worried that the tentacle-faced god was trying to hurt his loved ones again. I'll check it out. Hour later, Kyoto, Naruto's office. Yeah, I can't tell if this thing is even able to communicate while sealed. Naruto said in irritation as he looked at the gourd and within it with his Byakugan. He could see the viscous liquid that resided within, but could not feel any presence of Cthulhu within it. It had been several decades since Naruto sealed the elder god within the gourd, so it could have been dead for all Naruto knew. I'll keep an eye on this Lovecraft, just to be safe. Naruto thought as he sealed the gourd away and hid it. 1931. I told you this was a bad idea. Shemhazai sighed as his leader was thrown out of Kyoto's border. Come on, I am not trying to do anything, I just want to talk to the sage. Azazel said as he scrambled to stand up. Boss, I think we should call it a day. Burukil said with a shake of the head. Nope. Azazel said as he got up, dusted himself off, and then walked back to the Torii gate entrance. Just leave, Fallen. The guard snapped as they held their weapons out. We are not going to let you in. A feminine laugh echoed in the air. Boss, I think I can get us through. The laugher spoke with a silky smooth tone as she stepped up, cloaked in a white cape and hood. No, we are here to talk. Okay, I thought it was weird that I felt Fallen, but I didn't expect you, Azazel. The Fallen and the guards turned and saw Naruto in his casual clothing with a grocery bag in hand. Sup, Uzumaki? Azazel called out as if Naruto was an old pal. Can you do me a favor, and let us in? Yeah, sure. Naruto said with a shrug. The guards grunted and moved, letting Azazel, Shemhazai, Burukil, and the unnamed woman followed Naruto. So, why you here, Governor General? Naruto asked as he led the group to his home, which was pretty close. Just a small favor, and of course, we will pay it back. Azazel said nonchalantly. We have a pest that needs taking care of. Shemhazai explained as they arrived at the compound. Naruto. Loco said as she saw him arrive. Oh, we have important guests. Here, Naruto asked as he handed Loco the groceries. Take care of these for me, please. Sure, sweetie. Loco said with a kiss on his cheek. This pest, Naruto asked as he motioned for the Fallen to follow him to the conference room. What is it that needs me to take care of it over you? An old comrade. Burukil said sadly as he felt irritated. His name is Samael. He was a good soldier, and a better friend. You said a pest, not a fallen. Naruto said as he sat in a chair, spinning in it before he looked at the fallen. I shall explain. The woman said as she pulled down her hood to reveal her face. I am Reigyo Kiryuin, and I am the head researcher of the fallen. Reigyo's most prominent feature is her resplendent multicolored hair with a silver color on top. She has a very attractive and authoritarian appearance, and is at all times flaunting glamorous dresses that fit her very tall stature. Naruto. Yeah, old bud, I feel it too. Naruto thought as he smiled and bowed. She is reeking with negativity. You think she might be one of the people we have been looking for? Not easy to say, but she is wicked, that is for sure. Kurama grumbled from within as he didn't like the negative emotions that dripped off of Reigyo. Samael was an angel, who turned into a snake and tricked Adam and Eve into eating the forbidden fruit. Reigyo explained as she used magic to make a display. Our father was infuriated and cursed him to be a snake. He eventually became a dragon who secretes a very deadly poison that is laced with curses, especially against dragons. What does this have to do with me? Naruto asked as he didn't see any connection. Well, the old man sealed him away deep within the underworld, in Cocytus coated in seals. Azazel said with a cocky tone. Then, during the Devil Civil War, I decided to steal him. Naruto face palmed. And now he is probably about to break his seal and escape. Yeah, how do you know? Azazel asked in confusion. I have experience with beasts trying to escape. Hey. So, you want me to enhance his seals or something? Actually, we would like it if you sent him to a dimension with no inhabitants. Naruto laughed. You got some real guts to ask me that, Azazel? Naruto laughed. Azazel's face didn't change, causing Naruto's laughter to die down. Oh, you're serious? Naruto said as he stopped laughing. What do I get out of it? I am potentially putting my life on the line. Whatever I can give, you can have. Azazel said as he put on a theatric pose. You could have my head, or my wealth. Anything you think, I'll give. Naruto leaned into his chair. I'll think about it. Naruto said as he got up. So, where is this Samael? Azazel smiled. I'll lead the way. He said as he put his arm around Naruto. This guy is weird. Naruto thought as Azazel teleported himself, Shemhazai, Burikil, and Reigyo out of Kyoto. So, you want me to enhance his seals or something? Naruto asked the four fallen angels. Actually, we would like it if you sent him to a dimension with no inhabitants. Azazel explained casually. Naruto laughed. You got some real guts to ask me that, Azazel? Naruto laughed. Azazel's face didn't change, causing Naruto's laughter to die down. Oh, you're serious? Naruto said as he stopped laughing. What do I get out of it? I am potentially putting my life on the line. Whatever I can give, you can have. Azazel said as he put on a theatric pose. You could have my head, or my wealth. Anything you think, I'll give. Naruto leaned into his chair. I'll think about it. Naruto said as he got up. So, where is this Samael? Azazel smiled. I'll lead the way. He said as he put his arm around Naruto. This guy is weird. Naruto thought as Azazel teleported himself, Shemhazai, Burikil, and Reigyo out of Kyoto. Secret chamber of the Grigori. Whoa, this fucker is big. Naruto stated in shock as he gazed upon the massive size of a full-grown adult dragon. Not as big as Loco, but still, impressive. Indeed, Quetzalcoatl is larger than Samael, but he is far more deadly with that cursed venom of his. Reigyo added as she took in all of the details of the sealed dragon. I wish could have studied it personally. Reigyo. Azazel stated strictly, giving his comrade a dark glare. Reigyo rolled her eyes and went silent. Okay, now I suggest you all stand. Naruto said as he looked toward the fallen, judging the distance that would be safe. About, all the way against the wall. What do you? Burikil started to ask as a large portal opened behind Samael. Whoa. The fallen stated as they saw through the portal and noticed it was not any place on Earth that they knew of. Yo, I said stand back against the wall. Naruto stated as he motioned for them to move, now. Breaking the seal is bad enough, but if this guy recognizes you, he might get violent. Oh, good idea. Shemhazai mumbled as he realized that Naruto did have a point. Reigyo, Azazel, Burikil, and Shemhazai hid as Naruto walked as he waddled over to the dragon, grabbing one of the chains. Okay, breaking the seal. Naruto stated as he frowned in concentration. The chains began to glow, runes lighting up as Naruto's chakra entered it, starting to swell beyond what the seals could handle before. Snap. The moment the chain was broken, Samael twitched, his sealed magic started to awaken and his body reacted in turn. Who are you? Samael asked as his brain started to awaken. No one special, but where you will be going, you won't have to deal with any dragons. Naruto stated as he held his palm up, pressing it against the waking beast. Shinra Tensei. Samael, now more awake, felt himself get blasted back, chains being ripped off of him as it happened. He closed his eyes, from once being in a dark cavern, now in bright sunlight, being blinded. Also, you won't have to worry about food either. There is plenty for you to live here forever. Naruto called out as Samael opened his eyes enough to see the portal close, seeing the man who freed him. Wait. Samael shouted as he tried to reach out, but was pushed further by a Truth Seeker orb, a complex seal array appearing on his body. Please, tell me your name. Naruto smirked as the orb returned. Naruto Uzumaki. He said as the portal closed completely, cutting Samael from his original world entirely. Naruto Uzumaki. Samael thought as he slammed into the ground, damaging the grassy field he landed in. The seal matrix on his body glowed, causing Samael to shrink down and became human-like as Samael sat up. I don't feel any dragons. He thought in surprise. All I sense are animals and myself. As he thought this, several animals appeared and looked at him with curious eyes. Samael's stomach growled. Well, he did say something about food. Samael thought as he wiped drool from his lips. DXD world. Well, I did what you asked. Naruto stated as he walked up to the fallen, hand on his neck as he cracked it while a portal opened, revealing Kyoto. So, we shall bid you all adieu. Naruto walked through it, leaving the four fallen in surprise how easily Naruto was able to undo the seal and send Samael away. Oh, shit. Burakil thought as his brain registered what happened. Well, that happened. Shemhazai stated obviously. Yeah, it did. Azazel replied dully. And we should try to get an alliance with him like those other guys. Regio nodded, but internally she smirked in happiness, to the point her face was contorted into a terrifying mess. Such power, and the display was perfect. I can now restart what I started from scratch and make the new adjustments accordingly. She thought as she followed the others out of the chamber. 1945. The bombing of Hiroshima. It devastated the human-dwelled parts of Japan, many dying of the bomb or the residual radiation poisoning them or the water and food they ate or by the people they touched. Naruto had watched in horror from a distance with off eyes when the US planes dropped said bombs. It's horrible, Naruto stated as he watched the news reports on the TV with off eyes. How could humans do this to each other, the same way the shinobi had their great ninja wars, Ashura? Off eyes said as she touched Naruto's hand, which grabbed hers off eyes. Naruto said as he couldn't take his eyes off of the TV. Ashura off eyes said as she stood up and hugged him, rubbing his back, pushing as much love and comfort into said hug. Next day, will you three marry me? Naruto asked as he stood before Loco, Hilda, and Zest, red in the face as he held out three different rings. One was a silver serpent wrapping around itself with ruby eyes. The second was a standard diamond ring with white gold but had a sword-looking band. The third was an emerald ring with normal gold band. Yes/what/yes. Loco, Hilda, and Zest said, all red in the face and amazement. Loco and Zest hugged Naruto, accepting their rings on their fingers as Hilda stood still, her heart racing. You don't want to get married? Loco asked as she looked at Hilda. No. I do. Hilda bit her lip to silence herself, glancing down to her first wedding band, the one she accepted when she married Adrian Teeps centuries beforehand. I understand. Naruto said, having followed her gaze. Adrian was my best friend. Hilda's sword touched Naruto's lips, silencing the sage yes. Hilda said as she swiped the ring, putting it on her finger, but not removing her original. However, the rings merged into one upon contact with each other. Hilda's eyes widened, tears forming. So, I guess we are all engaged, huh? Zest said, breaking the awkward silence before all of them hugged, smiling, and tearing up. It was a gorgeous wedding, elements of the three different cultures incorporated in it. Naruto had 3 vows, each unique to Loco, Hilda, and Zest, giving them new rings and kissing them all deeply. Loco, Hilda, and Zest threw their bouquets, and they were caught by Akasha, Yasaka, and Harem. So Naruto said as he got a cheeky smirk on his face as the three blushed. When am I going to get grandchildren? Massive welts appeared on his head with steam, Naruto laughing it off as Akasha, Harem, and Yasaka stormed off to get a drink. Life was just getting better at this time for the Uzumaki family. 1953, Kyoto, evening. Zest moaned as she sat on Naruto's pelvis, impaled on his dick, both naked on their bed covered in sweat as Loco and Hilda sat nearby, keeping each other wet, their hands caressing each other's sacred spots. She convulsed as she came and slowly lowered herself down and laid on Naruto, who removed himself from her, earning a sad moan. Loco took her chance and jumped Naruto, latching onto his lips, pushing him onto his back as Hilda pulled Zest aside before she sat on Zest's face, pressing her soaked snatch into the rabbit's face. Zest started lapping at the liquid presented before her, causing Hilda to moan in ecstasy before she leaned into Zest's pussy, licking the mixture of Naruto and Zest's cum. Loco giggled as Naruto pressed his face between her breasts, holding her in his arms against the wall, thrusting hard enough to shake the room. Yes. Yes. Loco lulled as her hands gripped Naruto's back, scratching it accidentally, each thrust making her breasts move in perfect harmony. Yes. Loco climaxed, spraying her fluids across Naruto's junk as he pulled out. You are a tease, Hilda cooed as she wrapped her arms around Naruto's shoulders. Naruto put Loco down and turned to face Hilda, kissing her as he wrapped his arms around Hilda's waist. Zest's eyelids were too heavy to keep up, sleep taking a hold of her as Loco set herself next to the tan woman. Sleep sounds good too, Loco said as she pulled Zest into her, holding her lovingly as she too fell asleep. Hilda was bouncing on Naruto's waist as he sat up, helping her move. Uha, Hyuga. Hilda sounded as she looked at Naruto's neck. In blind lust, Hilda pulled herself into his neck, her fangs sinking into his flesh. The red liquid of life burst into her mouth as she drank from him. Slap! Hilda climaxed, her eyes wide as she screamed into Naruto's neck after he spanked her. Her body spasmed, eyes becoming blurred in exhaustion, all four of them having sex for hours since Naruto returned. Amazing. She moaned as Naruto helped her off of his dick. Naruto smiled tiredly, shifting his legs to pick Hilda up and slowly walked over to Zest and Loco, putting Hilda with them. Throwing a light blanket over the three of them, then donning a light kimono, Naruto exited the room. You've had your fun, Ashira. Fuck, off-eyes, don't do that. Naruto said as he spun on his heel to see off-eyes floating before him. I like freaking you out. Off-eyes said with a cheeky, cat-like grin. Ugh, I am never going to have time to myself. Naruto said as he moved out of the way from Yasaka, who was tired from a long day of work. There are too many people here. Then why don't you leave? Off-eyes stated. 1 week later. What is going on? Shit, everyone run. It's an earthquake. No, it's worse. It's a volcano. Everyone across the country could feel the ground and their homes shake violently. A modern-day Richter scale measurement would put it on a 11.2 earthquake as the land split, and a massive amount of dark, charred earth rose from it, spires of magma flying out from it. The people in the surrounding areas fled, hands on their heads as the molten stone hardened into solid rock as it flew in the air. The smoke emitted from the crater bellowed into the air. Fuck. I hate feeling like I am being a monster, you know. Naruto said from the epicenter of the volcano, coated in sun's lava-style chakra, keeping himself safe as he had used creation of all things to make this mountain. I don't feel that way, sensei. Zest said with a great smile on her face as she too was covered in lava chakra. We are building our new home, so don't see it as a negative thing. Quickly, the magma hardened into stone, the mountain touching the stratosphere. True, Naruto said as he grabbed Zest's arm, floating out of the magma into the air next to Loco, both powering down but Naruto still in 6 paths sage mode. But it still feels like a dick move scaring the humans. You get it, don't you, Loco? I know, dear, but Zest also has a point as well. Loco said as she tapped into the deepest depths of her magic. Now, for my part. Spreading her arms out as a goddess of agriculture, the charred earth was becoming lush with green and living plants as the earth became rich as a sudden rainstorm hit the island of Japan. It became fertile as trees began to grow. Loco felt a mild exhaustion once she finished, Naruto grabbing her waist and lowering them to the top of the volcano, no longer hot or dangerous. Guess I overdid it. Loco chuckled as Zest helped her stand Naruto. Hilda called out as she appeared a few feet away. The others should be here soon. Once those words left her mouth, Zeus, Odin, Michael, Hephaestus, Brock, Sindri, and many other carpenters appeared. Wow, it looks like it was always there, Naruto. Zeus said. He motioned for his men to cooperate with the others. All right, all who are building the homes, follow me. Hilda announced. Yes, ma'am. Hephaestus, Brock, Sindri, and the others said in unison, following Hilda, Zest, and Loco to the base of the mountain. With a flick of his truth-seeker orbs, the volcano's crater was cut down, making a smoother, more mountain-like feel, with the remnants being sent to a different dimension. You know, when you told me about this, I thought you were joking. Michael said as he looked out from the top, looking down, seeing a path up the mountain being created easy by the supernatural carpenters. Yeah, it's why it took me a few days before I told you guys about it. Naruto said as he held up his copy of the plans. So, this part, Odin said as he looked at the smooth top part of the mountain, is where you are going to be doing the training. Yes. Naruto said as he put the plans away. But we need to focus. Zeus laughed as he patted Naruto on the back. You are full of surprises, kid. Zeus laughed. Yeah, fuck you too, Zeus. Naruto said as he rotated his arm, his shoulder in pain. Let us begin. Michael said as he held out his arms. Odin followed suit. Zeus mimicking this motion. Naruto held out his hands. Thanks, but now for the hard part. Naruto said as the four beings began to channel their power together into one core. Creation of all things. A bright light engulfed the islands. It would be considered a day of misfortune in Japan for decades, but such a phenomenon never happened again, so it was forgotten and believed to be a hysteria of the time. Skip, 1990. Kyoto Town. A mysterious village, later town, that appeared at the base of what was dubbed Sage Mountain way back in 1953. It started as a small colony of people seeking shelter from the sudden appearance of the mountain. Humans settled in, and found a shrine to Inari. It was located on a path of torii gates that lead to the center of the mountain, halfway up, with a branching path leading up, but it was off limits, for humans. Those seeking training would follow the torii gates on this path and find themselves above the clouds, where the great sage would be waiting to train the worthy. However, before we delve into this great location, let us visit a familiar shop. At the base of the mountain, right before the path that leads to the Inari Shrine, was a ramen/tea shop. The Jasmine Dragon. Come one, come all, to the best ramen and tea shop in Kyoto. Loco announced as she stood outside. Regular, udon, soba, hot, cold, and any kind of tea. Zest announced as she smiled. Zest wore a lavender kimono with clouds on it with a pink obi, a bright pink flower in her hair, which had grown longer to the middle of her back. Her hair was up in a braid with floral clip. Loco had her hair up in a traditional geisha-like style as she wore an azure blue kimono with cranes and a gold obi. Customers entered on average, like usual. Within the building, Hilda took orders with Madatabi using her puppet body to help out. In the kitchen, Jayaki and Komei were the main cooks with Sun being the main tea brewer. Shikaku, surprisingly, was the dessert specialist, having a knack for presentation. Naruto, however, was the only one who cooked the ramen, using his family secrets. Just erase naan to make the dough, chakra arms to make the dough into noodles, and then some intense flames to boil them. I could go on, but the Jasmine Dragon is not what you, the reader, want to see. Above the clouds was Sage Mountain's true purpose. To train any who want it. The off-limits path would become dense with foliage and misty from the higher level and thin oxygen. You could scale the mountain in any way, but the path was more memorable. Scattered along the path were statues of Bunpaku, Gaara, Yujito Nii, Rin Nohara, Yagura Karatachi, Rashi, Han, Yotakata, Fu, Blue Bee, Killer Bee, Mito Uzumaki, Kushina Uzumaki, Naruto Uzumaki, at the time of his first death at the Valley of the End, Minato Namikaze, Obito Uchiha, and finally Hag Oromo at Satsuki. All Jinchuriki worth memorializing in statue form. Madara Uchiha was considered, but was shot down by the Biju, and Naruto didn't want to argue. With the statues of the Jinchuriki, were statues of the Biju. Shikaku, Madatabi, Isabu, Sungaku, Kokuo, Seiken, Komei, Jayaki, Kurama. The Biju also refused to have a statue of the Ten Tails be created, thus Naruto didn't argue either. Surrounding the mountain were multiple pillars of Japanese, Greek, Norse, and Christian styles. These pillars acted as points in a great barrier hiding the true purpose of the mountain from any unnecessary invaders. Where the path met the top, were two giant toad statues, both made with senjutsu, so those sensitive to it could sense it, and if they so chose to receive training, they could fin their way to Sage Mountain. There was the forest, where 3/4 of the terrain were covered in dense trees and filled with animals that Naruto remembered from his time training with B. It even had a waterfall of truth that had a path that led to a small cavern with nutritious insects, ones that Granny Shima would love to have used in her cooking. There was a compound built as well, where the students would sleep, relax, or whatever they wanted, as it would be their home during training. Currently, Naruto was finishing the last part of Sage Mountain that he wanted. A small burial site for anyone that perished during training. It was a large plot of land, full of softer soil that would eventually be lush with green and foliage. It was made to expand and grow bigger depending on its amount of use. Less graves, smaller space. More graves, bigger space. Naruto wiped his head, smearing some dirt on his face as he did. Sadly, a handful of his students had passed away, thus the necessity of the cemetery. Nearby, Isabu, Kokuo, Seiken, and Kurama dug the graves, much to their irritation for being used as manual labor workers. Finally, the mountain is complete. Naruto thought as he sat down, drinking some water. Skip, summer of 1990. Naruto walked through a small group of students, Zest being one of them. This group was being taught by Sun, having found an interest in training as well as cooking, but only those who had fire or earth chakra users. Shikaku had his own group nearby, trying to help them master their chakra control, and failing. Well, at least no one is DY. Naruto turned his head to the opposite side of the mountain. What do we have here? He thought as he entered Sage mode. Opposite side of the mountain. Come on, I'm so close. A female Nico Shao thought to herself as she climbed the mountain with her bare hands, her fingertips bleeding and her claws having long since broke off. She had unkempt white hair, riddled with mud and dirt, 2 white ears and a single white tail. Her clothing was torn and ruined. She had felt Sage Mountain call, and decided to become a sage. However, instead of going the normal way, which was to go to the through queue of town and walk up the path, she decided to go for the back and scale the mountain on the opposite side, which was difficult due to the angle of the mountain and the fact that the foliage and steep cliffs made it harder to climb and find a safe path to traverse. Thankfully, she had a little bit of training from before her journey, thus she used her chakra to help cling to the trees and rocks, but it took her 2 weeks to get to the place SH was now due to her chakra reserves being quite small, at the start. Now much bigger and stronger, she was able to cover more of the mountain every day. So, she climbed, strengthening her chakra control, and chakra capacity for 2 weeks straight of continual climbing up and down the mountainside. Thankfully many of the trees had fruit, but after 2 weeks, she wanted something more than fruit, which explains why this Nico Shao wanted to get to the top as soon as possible, aside from becoming a sage. However, she had been climbing for 3 days now, and hadn't fallen once, now being able to see the cut off of mountain. Come on, Fujima, you can do this. Fujima thought as she continued to climb, feeling exhausted, but her excitement for what she could find was pushing her to continue. Her hands, bleeding and in pain, were numb with her chakra being the only thing keeping her from falling at this point as she continued to move quickly, much to her detriment so close. Fujima thought, her exhaustion getting worse as she started to feel dizzy and sick. So close. Her fingertips and toes, which she was channeling her chakra through, disconnected from the mountain. No. Fujima thought as she started to fall, her tired brain and body registering that she was falling before she passed out. However, an arm of chakra shot out and grabbed her before she could fall further. Well, she did something incredibly stupid. Naruto said as he pulled the arm back, taking her into both arms bridal style. I mean, there is the path, but the guts she showed FO scaling the mountain with her hands, impressive. Naruto looked Fujima over for injuries, seeing she was about 17 to 19 years old along with her bleeding fingers and toes. She looks so cute with these ears. Naruto walked from the edge, taking Fujima to the compound. Fujima groaned. Her stomach felt tight, uncomfortable, as she turned to her side, pulling her blanket over herself. She groaned. In discomfort, face scrunched in a frown. I think she is Fujima's eyelids twitched as her ears fluttered at the sound. Wah. Fujima partially lulled as she opened her eyes. She sat up, her blanket falling off as she looked around. Oh, good you're awake. Fujima turned to the speaker, seeing Zest sitting with a set of clothing. Where am I? Fujima asked as she rubbed her eyes. I need to get back to the mountain. Oh, don't worry, you are on the mountain. Zest said as she handed Fujima the clothes and underwear. Sorry, but your kimono was damaged, so we took your measurements and had these made for you. Oka, wait, what? Fujima asked in panic as her brain registered what Zest had informed her as she took the clothing. I am on the mountain? But, how? Zest stood up with a chuckle. Don't worry, just get changed and meet me outside. Zest said as she left the young Nico Xiao alone to change. Fujima got up. She took notice of her fingers and toes. They had been healed. Not a single open injury or black bruising on her little digits. Oh wow, they must have healed me while I slept. Fujima said as she stripped herself and changed into the new clothing. Meanwhile, a door that was not attached to any wall opened up, allowing Naruto to exit with multiple bags of food from Nicoya. Thank you for your patronage, please come again. Aleta and Kuro said as the door closed. Oh, you're back, good, I am starving. Loco said as she bound up to her husband, kissing his cheek before taking the majority of the bags. No problem, I love you too. Naruto said sarcastically as Loco sat at a table and started eating. Don't be like that, dear, you know she loves you. Hilda said as she put her pen down, having been doing some paperwork. Naruto huffed as he opened the last 2 bags and handed the food out between himself, Hilda and Zest. Sensei, our guest has woken up. Zest said as she opened her food, saliva pooling in her mouth as she clapped her hands in prayer. Oh, good, she is awake. Naruto said as he sat down, pulling the cover off of his curry. Hello. Oh, speak of the devil. Zest said as she stood up and left the table. I'll go grab her. Zest left the room, returning a few minutes later with Fujima. She was now wearing a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. Her long white hair was tied in a low ponytail. Afternoon, sleepyhead. Naruto greeted as he started eating. Sorry, I didn't know if you would be awake, so I didn't get you anything from Nicoya. That's fine. Fujima replied nervously as she looked at Hilda, Zest, Loco, and Naruto. Is this really the great sage? He doesn't seem like he could punch a dragon. Naruto, Hilda said sternly as she nudged him with her elbow. Greet her properly. Naruto rolled his eyes and stood up. He was not wearing his best, looking quite disheveled in a pair of sweatpants and a battered shirt. I am Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto greeted. If you are here for training, I will be one of your instructors. He motioned toward his compatriots. I am Hilda Teeps Uzumaki. Pleasure to meet you. Hilda said politely with a smile. Zest Uzumaki. I am happy to meet you. Zest said with a bright smile. Quetzalcoatl Uzumaki, but you can. Loco slurped a large number of noodles, her cheeks puffing out before she swallowed. Sorry, but you can call me Loco. I am Fujima, no last name. Fujima said politely with a bow. She pulled out of the bow and looked around the room. The compound itself was quite clean, but this room was pretty messy. It was not big, but holding 5 people was bordering its max capacity of people. This has to be a joke. Fujima thought as this group seemed like it was dysfunctional. Loco, mind your manners. Hilda snipped as she pointed at the dragon/goddess. I don't care if you are pregnant, it isn't an excuse to forget your manners. Loco rolled her eyes with a dismissive shrug. Yeah, this has to be a trick, this can't be the great sage. Fujima thought as Loco continued to antagonize Hilda. Alright, that's enough. Naruto stated loudly, entering Kurama mode, the sudden transformation causing Fujima to fall backwards onto her ass. Oh fuck, I was wrong. Fujima thought as she felt like it was hard to breathe in Naruto's presence. He is the great sage. I'm sorry. Fujima apologized as Naruto powered down, confusing the family. For what? My name is Fujima. She said as she scampered to get onto her knees. I apologize for my rudeness. I had assumed you were not the sage of creation and destruction, but I know better now. Please, forgive me. It is fine, Zest said giggled. Sensei pretty you unassuming. Hey. Naruto replied with a scowl. Not funny, Zest. It was. Loco laughed. Hilda covered her smirk with her hand. Naruto crossed his arms as he frowned. This is going to be weird, Fujima thought as she got up and sat down at the table. Anyway, you aren't going to be training alone, Naruto said as he sat down to eat his food. We have a few other students here. But for now, just rest and acclimate to the high altitude. Why? I don't feel sick, Fujima replied as she took a very deep breath. See? That is probably because you didn't take the stairs. You did climb the back of the mountain, so it probably helped you acclimate, Loco pointed out, now halfway through her large meal. So, it was a good idea that I climbed the mountain then? Fujima asked unsurely. Yeah, most students do take the stairs, but it could take them a few days as the higher elevation, well, you know, Hilda said as she continued to eat. When can I start? Fujima asked as she looked at Naruto, a hopeful tone in her voice and look in her eye. Tomorrow, Naruto said as he finished eating, leaning in his chair, audible cracks being heard in his back. Today was our day off. I'll give you the tour though. Of course, sensei, Fujima said as she stood straight. Naruto stood up and left with Fujima behind him as Zest and Hilda finished their meals. As Loco continued to smile with her cheeks full of food she munched on, still having more to eat. Several minutes later. This place is much bigger than I thought it was going to be, Fujima said as Naruto guided her through the mountain. It was huge. It has a compound where Naruto, his family, and the students would live, which could fit hundreds of people. A gigantic hot spring, a large garden, a cemetery, dozens of statues of various students and people significant to the Uzumaki clan. A training ground that was sectioned off, with an waterfall. Fujima asked in confusion as she saw a big toad statue sitting in a pool of gross-looking water. Well, one of three, Naruto answered as he put his hand in, smiling as nostalgia took over him. This is actually toad oil. What? Fujima screamed as Naruto flicked his fingers at her, the oil hitting her, sprinkled across her face, shoulder, and chest, soaking into her new outfit and skin. Why did you? Fujima's eyes widened as she felt a significant difference. She looked in the oil, seeing her reflection. Where the oil had hit her, toad warts had appeared, her left eye gaining a white ring with her cat-like eye becoming toad-like. A shrill scream of fear, confusion, and panic rippled from Fujima's throat, before it was abruptly interrupted when a black baton smacked her head. Ow. Naruto chuckled. Wasn't fun when I was on the receiving end, but it is always fun, Naruto thought as he remembered his training in sage mode with Fukusaku, glancing at a nearby statue of sages. Fukusaku, Shima, Gamabuntat, Gamahiro, Gamaken, Gamakaki, Gamatatsu, Jiraiya, Minato, Hashirama, Hagoromo, and several students, smiling at each memory. Why did you hit me? I am Ha. Fujima checked herself over. No warts. What happened? I smacked the nature out of you with this, Naruto answered as he held out the baton. It is special because of that. So, when we reach this level of your training, you will become acquainted with it. Fujima shuddered. She didn't want to be hit with a bat. Anyway, we aren't here at this stage yet, Naruto said as he led the baton away and left the MT Mayaboku segment of the mountain. We have a more basic training area where you will be. I am advanced enough for senjutsu training, sensei, Fujima spoke out. She had spent a lot of time growing up doing basic training exercises, pushing herself to the limit while climbing the mountain. Fujima didn't need to do any more, she was ready. Yeah, sorry, but you aren't, Naruto told her calmly, not minding the outburst. It has happened before, so it wasn't anything new. Okay, let's say I believe you, Naruto said as his tone and voice became stern. You have a good amount of chakra, but do you think you can balance nature energy with it? You'll want to risk toad petrification right now. What? Fujima asked, faltering slightly. Remember those toad statues around the pond? Naruto asked her, making Fujima nod. Those statues are students who failed their training and became toads, but turned to stone because they could not control how much they were taking in. So, Fujima, you want to risk this? Fujima clammed up, her legs pressing together, arms before her, tail and ears drooped as she looked at the ground sheepishly. No, sensei, I am sorry, she apologized. Pride had gotten the better of her. I wouldn't be surprised if he kicks me. Fujima felt a hand on her head. Huh. It's okay, Fujima. Naruto said with a smile, returning to his kind nurturing tone. You will get to it, but let's take it slowly. Also, you won't be doing sage training alone. I won't. Because I am also training to become a sage. Fujima turned her head to look behind Naruto, seeing Zest walking up. Ah, perfect timing, Zest. Naruto said as he removed his hand from Fujima's head, making her pout. She liked head pats. So, we are sibling students. Zest said as she smiled at Fujima. I guess. Hey, sensei. Fujima saw a few other students run up to Naruto. Human. Fujima thought as she could smell a few humans amongst the three. 2 were yokai, and 1 was human. Adama, Osei, Tamaki. You guys finished with your training exercises? Naruto asked as he looked at his students. Oh, before that, this is Fujima, she is a new student, so be nice to her. Tamaki, Adama, and Osei turned to their new friend. Fujima looked in turn. Adama was a gorgeous woman with electric white feather/tattoo-like design over her ebony skin. She had a shaved head with a pointed lip, which was a bit yellow. Her eyes were a milky white. Her feet were not human, but were bird feet with sharp talons. She wore a GI top, with the arms torn off, showing off her shoulders. Osei was tall, thick, and muscled. He had clawed fingers with a thick mane of dreadlocks with beads in his untamed beard. He was bare-chested, wearing what appeared to be giraffe skin pants, fur, and all, with a lion tail wrapped around his waist. He was barefoot, his toes also clawed. Tamaki was a normal human that was lanky and tall, with short black hair and amethyst eyes. He wasn't muscled, but had a decent physique, showing his healthy lifestyle. He wore sport shorts and shirt. Nice to meet you. Adama said, her accent sending chills down Fujima's spine at how elegant and sensual it sounded without any effort. I am Adama. I am Fujima, it is nice to meet you, Adama. Fujima said politely. Osei let out a loud, thunderous belly laugh. What's funny? Tamaki asked with a confused look at his friend. Here I thought cats and birds hated each other. He said as he looked at Tamaki, putting his arm around his friend as he gestured toward Fujima and Adama. But here we have a cat being nice to a Impundulu. What? Fujima asked as she looked at Adama. I am a monster from African folklore. Adama elaborated. We Impundulu are birds of thunder, as you can see. Adama held out one arm, the feather-like tattoos shifting before they moved outward and her arm became a giant birdwing with sparks of electricity crackling in them. Whoa, that is awesome. Fujima said with childish glee and sparkles in her eye. Adama smiled. She is the youngest, so it makes sense she is amazed. Adama said as her arm returned to normal. Thank you, Fujima. I am Osei, and I am a lion. Osei announced as he took Fujima's hand, nearly crushing it. Fucker, Fujima shouted as she leapt into the air, kicking the lion in the head, sending him downward, letting go of Fujima's hand. Let go, it hurts. Oh, I like you. Adama chuckled as Osei released his grip. Fujima prepared for a fight, but instead of the expected rage, she got a laugh. Oh, that was a love tap. Osei said as he stood up straight, as if he hadn't even been kicked. Training just got better. Hello, I am Tamaki, and I am a human. Tamaki replied nervously. I didn't expect the great sage to train humans. We train anyone who wants it, we don't turn people away. Naruto told Fujima. Now, let's get some lunch in your bellies. Yay. Osei shouted joyfully as he was ready to eat. Osei and Adama followed Naruto and Zest as Tamaki and Fujima were walking slower than the others. So, you're a Nikomata? Tamaki asked, trying to break the silence. Nico Shao, actually. Fujima answered, seeing him taking a few quick glances at her. What's with the glancing? Tamaki nearly tripped. I didn't. I mean, what? He tried to form a frantic sentence. Come on, slowpokes, food is gonna be gone when you get here. Osei shouted from atop the steps leading to the eating area where the students would eat during training. Come on. Fujima said as she took Tamaki by the hand and helped him rush up the stairs, not seeing the red cheeks on his face. Moments later, Tamaki shakily held a larvae rice ball in his hand as Adama ate like it was nothing. At the same time Osei took a deep drink from his cup, which was squeezed orange juice. You can't be serious. Fujima said as she held her lunch. A bowl of worm ramen. Yeah, what's wrong? Zest asked as she slurped her slug pot stickers. Where is sensei? He will end this joke. He is probably with Loco, helping her since she is pregnant. Adama said as she munched on a few mint leaves. You going to eat that worm ramen? No, you can have it. Fujima said as she handed the bowl to her teammate. Tamaki hummed as he chewed his food, doing his best to not puke. Is Fujima going to be training with us? Osei asked as he ate a large spoonful of cricket pie. She will start tomorrow. Zest said as she drank some juice as she watched Fujima walk toward the compound. Today is her free day. Meanwhile, Hilda, Naruto, you don't have to accompany me. Loco said as she walked alongside said man and woman. They had gone to Kyoto for Loco's weekly checkup. Nonsense, I am the dad, so I want to know what is going on. I did the same thing with Tamamo, so you are going to deal with it. Naruto told her with a playful tone. Adrian did the same. Hilda replied, smiling. The two shared a small moment of remembrance of their partners, taking each other's hands and squeezing them. I see. Loco said, noticing how serious it was for them. I won't fight it. They entered the doctor's office and were greeted by many yokai, bowing or verbally saying hello as they went to the front desk for their appointment. Sage Mountain. After she couldn't find Naruto, Fujima decided to familiarize the mountain's layout. These statues are beautiful and well crafted. She thought as she looked at the statues, walking to the closest one. It was of a former student as indicated by the name and birth/death dates on a plaque. Many were yokai, some were human. A few historical figures were there. Of course, 18 special statues of our favorite Jinchuriki and Biju were in a special circle with a statue of Hag Oromo in the center. Fujima continued to wander through these statues, not realizing she entered the cemetery. Fujima noticed a difference. While the area she was just in was filled with statues, this part was emptier. It was cobble ground, more like a temple, and there were simple pillars and torii gates that lead to a shrine. Fujima walked through, feeling a strange sense of love and sadness with each step. In the shrine, were, you guessed it, statues. Adrian Teeps, Lisa Teeps, Vlad Teeps, Tezcatlapaka, Iroh, Maiko, Yoshimaru, Zelda. Fujima read as she could tell what this place was from the incense and offerings. It was a burial shrine. Straightening herself out, Fujima clapped her hand, giving a small prayer. I might not know these people, Fujima thought as she finished her prayer. But if sensei was willing to give them this shrine, then they are important. New girl. Fujima jumped, the hair on her body, ears, and tail all standing on end as she went 20 feet in the air before landing, having spun mid-air to see who was talking. Who are you? Fujima demanded as she didn't recognize this person. Afaisa's eyes dulled further as she slumped. Afais looked like she had just crawled out of a dumpster. She wore a dirty oversized shirt that went to her knees, sport shorts peeking out from under said shirt, a body pillow with Vegeta on it under her arm with her, to her feet long hair, tangled and messy. I am Ashira's mother. You are in a place you shouldn't be, so beat it. Afais ordered. Her tired eyes opening wide enough to spook Fujima with the tiniest amount/percentage of her power. Fujima was gone, but Afais was irritated. What a slow girl. She thought as she walked with her Vegeta body pillow to find a place to nap. Afais had seen every step Fujima had taken, thus, slow girl. Evening. The infinite dragon loves here. I don't like you. Afais stated as she sat next to Naruto, eating dinner quietly with everyone doing the same. Don't worry, everyone had that reaction. Hilda said as she offered Fujima a bowl of rice. Eat, you are going to need your energy tomorrow. Fujima took the bowl and started to eat, her eyes darting back and forth between everyone, specifically Afais. Afais opened her mouth, eyes closed like a child as Naruto fed her some food she was having difficulty with. Messy eater. Naruto said as he took a napkin, wiping Afais's mouth. Afais held irritation in her eyes. I could have done that, Ashira. Afais said in her usual dull tone. Well, you didn't, so don't bitch. Naruto replied hotly. What the fuck is going on? Fujima thought as she felt overwhelmed. After dinner was a nice relaxing dip in the hot springs. Fujima decided to go to sleep afterwards. Today was, a lot, but tomorrow, with my training starting, it will be better. She thought optimistically as she got into her futon, pulling the cover up. Stupid girl. Afai's thought as she watched Fujima go to sleep. She is not prepared for the hell she will be entering.